Hello, everyone. I'm Mr.Dishwasher. Today, One Piece anime episode 1085 has been released, marking the official conclusion of the Wano arc. The Wano arc started from episode 878 and continued until episode 1085, comprising a total of 208 episodes. This narrative spanned from March 2019 to November 2023, nearly 5 years. Now, as the Wano arc concludes, let's take a comprehensive look back at the entire storyline of this arc. The story picks up after the events of the Whole Cake Island arc. Meanwhile, monumental events are unfolding across the world. The sacred land of Mary Geoise is preparing to host the Levely, the meeting of royal families. The Revolutionary Army has also relocated their base to Momwaro Island. Dragon and Sabo are safe and mobilizing forces for a confrontation with the Celestial Dragons. Soon after, Sabo leads a team to infiltrate Mary Geoise as royal dignitaries arrive for the conference. Thanks to Luffy's influence, Vivi, Rebecca, and Shirahoshi have forged a wonderful friendship. Despite orders from Akainu, Admiral Fujitora comes to Mary Geoise. Also present is the newly appointed Admiral Ryokugyu. Meanwhile, the former CP9, including Lucci, were promoted to CP0. They served as guards for Celestial Dragons, assisting Charlos in capturing Shirahoshi. Seeing this, Neptune could no longer restrain himself and decided to reclaim Shirahoshi, bidding farewell to the world above. At this moment, the reformed Celestial Dragon Josgard intervenes, knocking down the foolish noble. This man was once saved by Odoheim and has since changed his ways. With his assistance, the turmoil over Princess Shirahoshi's capture was diffused. Meanwhile, with Luffy's bounty skyrocketing to 1.5 billion, he is hailed as the 5th emperor in the New World, shocking the world. However, upon learning this, Big Mom sets sail for Wano to defeat Luffy and avenge herself. For this purpose, she has a heated exchange with Kaido over Den Den Mushi. They are both determined to capture Luffy. It seems a massive storm is brewing in Wano. The Navy, having intercepted this news, will not stand idly by. Kizaru volunteers to travel to Wano, but Akainu forbids it, citing unknown forces in Wano. In fact, in the past, Big Mom, Kaido, and Whitebeard were all part of the Rocks pirates. Rocks was the previous ruler of the seas before Roger, and extremely malevolent. At that time, Roger and Garp allied to defeat the Rocks pirates. This made Garp a heroic Navy legend, earning him worldwide fame. Meanwhile, Shanks secretly meets with the 5 elders in Mary Geoise. Jewelry Bonnie also infiltrated the Holy Land and saw the enslaved Kuma, filling her with intense anger. She vowed the Celestial Dragons would not be spared. In truth, Sabo and the Revolutionary Army come with the intention of rescuing their former comrade, Kuma. Afterward, the 5 elders have an audience with the true power behind the world government, Imu. They hold a certain unease towards the family of D and decide to initiate a global purge. On the other side, Nekomamushi finds Marco in Whitebeard's homeland. Whitebeard has used all his life's wealth to develop this land, to the point that he was even stingy enough to not offer Marco a drink. Thanks to Whitebeard's silent protection, the people live carefree lives. Returning to Luffy's group, they navigate whirlpools and arrive in Wano. Currently, Zoro and the others are established in Wano, integrated into the community. Usopp is selling fake medicine like toad oil. Meanwhile, Zoro becomes entangled in a murder case, but he manages to apprehend the assailant, an official, at the execution scene and swiftly puts him to the sword. As a result, Zoro becomes a wanted fugitive. Regarding Luffy, during the process of landing on the island, he temporarily loses contact with his companions. Later, he rescues a young girl named Tama from Kaido's forces. Tama is a user of the millet fruit, which allows her to create millet balls. Any animal or Zoan-type devil fruit user who consumes these balls must obey Tama's commands. Despite her impoverished circumstances, Tama remains surprisingly optimistic and doesn't let the situation overly sadden her. In gratitude for Luffy's kindness, she uses her last bit of rice to entertain Luffy, while she herself quietly drinks water from the river to stave off hunger.
おめえは食わねえのか？
はい、今は。パパパパパ。でもこれ以上炊いてないでやんす。お漬物もそれが最後。ちょっとお手洗いに行ってくるでやんす。
Actually, Tama only gets to have 2 meals a year. Today, her teacher, Hitetsu, spent money to buy white rice only for Tama's birthday celebration. However, all these food items were used to entertain Luffy, and Tama fell ill due to the contaminated water. After hearing about this, Luffy was deeply moved. He learned from Tama that she had been waiting for Ace's return. It turns out that Tama is from a place called Amagasa village in Wano's Kuri. 4 years ago, Ace visited this village and brought food, forming a deep friendship with Tama. With Ace's help, the people of Amagasa village used their own hands to overcome poverty and become prosperous. Before parting, Ace made a promise with Tama. If she could become a beautiful female ninja, she would be able to sail the seas with him. However, over a year ago, Drake from Kaido's crew destroyed Amagasa village. Because only the flower capital, ruled by the shogun Kurozumi Orochi, has gained Kaido's recognition. Everywhere else is a lawless wilderness, impeding economic progress. Only Tama stayed behind, waiting for Ace. Now, in order to repay the favor of that one meal, Luffy decides to take Tama to the town for medical treatment. From the swordsmith Hitetsu, Luffy also obtains the great-grade blade, Nidai Kitetsu. On their way, they see the land severely polluted by Kaido's factories and encounter the chivalrous Zoro. At that moment, Hawkins, a member of Shinichi who belongs to Kaido's crew, along with his men, comes to capture Luffy. Hawkins, who was originally part of the Kid Alliance, surprisingly switched allegiance to Kaido after being defeated. Zoro and Luffy engage in a fierce battle with Hawkins. Hawkins can transfer the damage he receives to his subordinates through a scarecrow and gain different battlefield effect bonuses by drawing cards. However, Zoro and Luffy are no ordinary individuals. After a skirmish, Zoro successfully forces Hawkins to retreat with his two-sword style.
Nitoryu.
Continuing, Luffy and Zoro, accompanied by Tama, proceed toward the town in search of treatment. They also encounter the teahouse owner, Tsurujo, and the employee, Kiku, from Okabor town. With their assistance, Tama receives treatment and is out of danger. She even enjoys a delicious bowl of ashiruko, finally having a fantastic birthday. In fact, there are many children like Tama who go hungry in Wano. All of this is because of Kaido and the tyrannical Orochi. They have devastated vast lands, leaving people without their homes and livelihoods. Clean and harmless food is monopolized by Orochi's forces, and ordinary folks are left begging and scavenging for sustenance. At that moment, 2 Smile Devil Fruit users suddenly launch an attack. One of them is incredibly fast and, with the help of their comrade, takes Tama away. It turns out they have discovered Tama's unique ability and want to exploit it for their own gain. These individuals are gifters under Kaido's command, obeying to the Shinichi. Currently, there are 3 Shinichi guarding this area, namely Hawkins, Holdem, and Speed. The true leader of Kuri is Jack, the Drought, who has fishman heritage and was previously saved by Kaido, returning to Wano. Upon learning of this, Luffy, Zoro, and Kiku swiftly pursue them. As a matter of fact, Kiku is not a woman but a skilled samurai, Kikunajo. Soon, the 3 of them create quite a scene in the officials' territory of Bakura town. The noise even reaches Law, who is lurking nearby. During the course of the chaos, Luffy rescues Tama from Holdem's clutches, witnessing the injured cheek of the young girl. Enraged, he uses Red Hawk to take down Holdem. Following that, Zoro and Kiku seize a significant amount of precious food from a large ship. Tama, with her ability to command animals, tames the Zoan user Speed and makes her help in their escape. On the other side, the truly formidable Hawkins is stopped by Law halfway through. After a brief exchange, neither side gains the upper hand. Shortly thereafter, Law follows Zoro's group and departs triumphantly. Later, Luffy manages to recover a large bucket of pure water, providing much-needed assistance to countless suffering people. Grateful from the depths of their hearts, they need not say more. In this moment, Luffy makes a promise to Tama. To repay the debt of a meal, he will ensure that this country will no longer worry about food. When he leaves Wano, everyone here will be able to eat their fill. At this instant, Tama feels as if she has once again seen Ace, who, in the past, made a similar promise. After this, Tama returns to Amagasa village, while Luffy accompanies Law, heading to the summit of Oden Castle. 20 years ago, the Kazuki family and their retainers, the 9 Red Scabbards, were burned to death within Oden Castle. Under the brainwashing of Kurozumi Orochi, the Kazuki family was portrayed as demonic figures. Their vision for opening Wano was a practice that allowed evil individuals and wicked ideas to thrive. Meanwhile, the isolationist policy of Wano was promoted as a means to protect the people. At Oden Castle, Luffy successfully reunites with his companions, including Nami, Sanji, and others. Also present are Momonosuke and Kinemon. At the same time, Luffy discovers the tombstones of Momonosuke and Kinemon here. It turns out that Momonosuke, Kinemon, Reizo, Kanjuro, and Kikunajo are people who time-traveled from 20 years ago in Wano to the present day. All of this traces back to the story of Kazuki Oden. 20 years ago, Kazuki Oden had a father, the Shogun Kazuki Sukiyaki. However, Oden did not want to be confined to the flower capital and came to Kuri. Here, he reformed the local ruffians and ronin, leading them to build a beautiful paradise farm. As a result, Oden was appointed as the daimyo of Kuri, becoming the local ruler. He also took in the homeless Inuarashi and Nekomamushi, forming the 9 Red Scabbards, a team of retainers, which became the talk of the town. At that time, Oden was only 20 years old, and he yearned for the sea and adventure. His character and reputation attracted numerous people, including the Pirate King Roger and Whitebeard. However, Kaido secretly joined forces with Orochi, plotting to frame Oden and make him a criminal in Wano. As a result, the entire Kazuki family was wiped out, meeting their end in the burning inferno. Toki, the mother of Momonosuke, using the power of the Time Fruit, sent Momonosuke and the others 20 years into the future. They bear the heavy responsibility of overthrowing Kaido and Orochi and inheriting Kazuki Oden's dream, to open Wano's borders. Returning to the present, though Oden has been hailed as an eternal sinner, there are still people among the populace who believe in him and are willing to risk their lives for his cause. They've endured for 20 years, and at last, they've witnessed the return of the Kazuki family, who now conceal themselves throughout Wano, marked with the crescent moon emblem on their feet. They await only a command from the Kazuki clan to rise up. It must be said, to inspire such hope in the people even 20 years later, only 2 individuals come to mind, Roger and Kazuki Oden. At present, counting all the samurai and the Mink tribe, the forces that the Kazuki clan can muster are estimated to be around 5,000 strong. The Kinemon faction is planning a decapitation operation, with the target being Kaido, one of the 4 emperors, who is currently in the southern part of Wano, Onigashima. The decisive battle is scheduled for the Fire Festival celebration 2 weeks from now. On that day, Kaido will meet with Wano's shogun, Kurozumi Orochi, and engage in a boisterous celebration. To transmit this message, the Kinemon faction has devised a special code, which the people must send to those bearing the moon crescent tattoo during this time. Additionally, the Kinemon faction has entrusted everyone to search for 3 members of the 9 Red Scabbards, Kawamatsu, Denjiro, and Ashura Doji. As of now, Ashura Doji was called Shutenmaru, who has risen as the leader of a group of thieves. He has just plundered food from Okabor town and encountered the Drought Jack. Without a word, they drew their blades and clashed. Ashura Doji's sword swiftly tore through Jack's chest. However, during their battle, the skies suddenly change color. It turns out that, due to his intoxication, Kaido transformed into Azure Dragon form and arrived at the scene. In an instant, the wind roars, clouds churn, and a terrifying aura overwhelms even distant figures like Luffy and his companions, leaving them gasping for breath. Okabor town, too, becomes a ruin within ruins due to Kaido's arrival. At this moment, Law deduces that Kaido's targets are himself and Luffy. Consequently, Luffy, accompanied by Law, separates from the group to intercept Kaido. However, Kaido unleashes a monstrous dragon's breath toward Oden Castle, and this fearsome blaze pierces right through the mountainside. Once the light subsided, half the mountain had been leveled. Upon witnessing the situation, Luffy's anger becomes uncontrollable. He worries about the safety of his comrades and immediately confronts Kaido. Luffy leaps into the sky, delivering a powerful attack. The impact of this attack is so great that those around couldn't keep their eyes open. However, when the smoke clears, Kaido emerges completely unscathed. In that moment, Luffy sees the injured Speed and learns that Tama has also been hurt by Kaido. This deepens his rage, and he once again stands before Kaido, shouting that he will become the Pirate King. Before the words fall, he turns on the Gear Third and attacks Kaido again. To Luffy's surprise, Kaido's defense is astonishing. Despite Luffy's torrential barrage, Kaido treats it as nothing more than a hangover remedy. After receiving a bit of a massage, Kaido returns to his true form, wielding the weapon, the Hasaikai. He wobbles and looks at Luffy. Seeing this, Luffy knows he has to go all out. He transforms into his ultimate Gear 4th, unleashing a ferocious storm of attacks that overwhelms Kaido. This time, Luffy's assault is effective, breaking through Kaido's drunken haze. Kaido opens his dragon eyes, and a thunderous roar echoes through the sky. However, as the thunder subsides, Luffy's ultimate move is about to be unleashed. Unexpectedly, his invincible Gear 4th is not a match for Kaido's Thunder Bagua. Kaido asks in a subdued manner, "What king was that, boy?" In this way, Luffy is defeated and captured, becoming Kaido's prisoner. Perhaps losing interest, Kaido returns to Onigashima to drink again. On the other side, Nami and the others are not seriously harmed. Thanks to Shinobu's protection, they are completely unaffected by the dragon's breath. Later, news of Luffy's defeat spreads throughout the country. Whether it is Frankie, Usopp, or Robin, all show expressions of shock upon hearing this. At this moment, Luffy is imprisoned in the prisoner mine of Udon, undergoing labor reform. Also incarcerated there are Kawamatsu, one of the 9 red scabbards, and Eustace Kid. Thus concludes Act 1 of Wano. Unexpectedly, Luffy, who had just arrived in Wano, faces a severe setback. So, will the Straw Hat crew manage to turn the tide? What hidden stories lie within the character of Kazuki Oden? Will our heroes ultimately triumph over the mighty Kaido? For answers to what comes next, stay tuned for the next installment. Thank you all, and goodbye. Hello, everyone. I am Mr.Dishwasher. In the previous episode, we discussed the Straw Hat Pirates landing in Wano country. Luffy is defeated by Kaido and becomes his prisoner. At the same time, significant events are unfolding around the world. Among them, Moria is surrounded by the Blackbeard pirates. Shiryu takes Absalom's clear fruit. Moria is in dire straits, and there are concerns for his life. In Merry Geoise, Sabo leads the revolutionary army in a mission to free the enslaved Kuma. They clash with the admirals Fujitora and Ryokugyu, and the battle is intense. Now the whole world is caught in a massive whirlpool. In the future, only the strong will be able to stand firm in this turbulent sea. Back in Wano, Inuarashi and the others find Ashura Doji. However, Ashura Doji does not want to obey Momonosuke's intentions. The weight of these past 20 years has been too heavy. He has lost all hope for the darkness that has gripped Wano. Thus, they part ways without reaching an agreement. On the other hand, Luffy and Kid become the dual leaders of the prisoner mine in Udon. Kaido hopes to break their spirits through labor and bring these supernovas under his control. The leader of the prison is the All-Star known as Queen the Plague. Standing beside Queen is one of the 3 All-Stars, King the Conflagration. Meanwhile, Nami and the others are preparing for Kinemon's plan. They not only need to convey messages to the samurai but also resolve the issue of weapons and sea transportation. At the same time, Luffy and Kid are working tirelessly in the mine, doing the work of hundreds of ordinary people. As a result, they not only have sufficient food but also defeated the deputy warden Shinichi, saving the elderly Hyogoro. Surprisingly, Caribou, who has changed for the better, is also in the prison, a strange twist of fate. As for Sanji, he is managing a ramen shop that is immensely popular among women. Here, he gives a thorough beating to a gang that came to cause trouble. He also meets a cheerful girl, Toko, who always has a smiling face. Toko has worked tirelessly to afford Sanji's noodles. Seeing her joyful smile, everyone's hearts have become much brighter.
働いてお小遣い貯めてやっと買えたお蕎麦だったのにこぼれちゃって悲しかったでも嬉しいそうかそんなにうめえか
Today marks the day when the renowned geisha Kamirasaki parades through the streets of the flower capital in Wano. Her beauty has captivated numerous men, leaving them enthralled. Toko, her faithful handmaiden, shares a strong bond with her. Together, they are headed to the shogun's residence to accompany Kurozumi Orochi, the shogun, during a banquet. At the same time, the talented courtesan, Robin, has also received an invitation and is eligible to attend Orochi's grand event. Currently, Orochi has just concluded a meeting with the Cp0 members. Interestingly, due to the underworld broker, Doflamingo's failure, the world government had to directly contact Orochi to purchase weapons. It's ironic that the weapons used to combat pirates by the world government now come from pirates themselves. On the other side, Zoro, as usual, gets lost and ends up separated from the group. During his wanderings, he encounters a cheerful man named Tonoyasu. Together, they arrive in Ebisu town, where laughter fills the air every moment. Tonoyasu explains, life is unpredictable. It would be a shame not to face it with a smile. Later, Zoro hears from the villagers about the benevolent thief Ashimitsu Kozo. Meanwhile, in the heart of the flower capital, Kurizumi Orochi is hosting an extravagant banquet. Joining him is his right-hand man, Kayashiro, the head of the Yakuza. In a brief moment during the festivities, Robin discreetly leaves her seat. She and her fellow infiltrators begin searching Orochi's estate. Brook finds the poneglyphs. However, Robin faces the formidable Oniwabanshu, the ninja guards. Thankfully, using her flower clone, she manages to escape. Back at the banquet, Orochi once again brings up the legend of the Kazuki clan's revenge. Toko can't help but laugh at his timid words, which infuriates Orochi. He intends to kill Toko in his rage. However, at this critical moment, Kamirasaki slaps Orochi in defense of Toko. She transforms from her usual graceful demeanor to one of resolute strength. Even when facing Orochi's formidable serpentine form, the Yamata no Orochi, Kamirasaki does not show a hint of fear. Immediately, Orochi retaliates, biting down on Kamirasaki, causing chaos to erupt in the banquet hall. Soon after, Robin, Brook, Nami, and the others appear one by one. They plan to rescue Toko and Kamirasaki while engaging in a battle with the Oniwabanshu. However, in a display of loyalty to Orochi, Kayashiro mercilessly strikes down the top courtesan, Kamirasaki. Upon seeing this, Nami, not holding back her power, summons the thundercloud Zeus. One can witness massive and robust lightning striking the sky, enveloping the entire shogun's residence in a dazzling display of thunder. Seizing this opportunity, Nami and the others rescue Toko and swiftly flee. Meanwhile, the Yonko Big Mom is on the verge of arriving in Wano. Upon receiving this news, Kaido orders his subordinates to launch an attack. However, they are taken aback by the terrifying strength of Big Mom, who effortlessly breaks through the final line of defense. At this crucial moment, the Conflagration King takes action and attacks Big Mom's ship. He possesses the power of the ancient Zoan, Pteranodon. Utilizing the cover of the waterfall, King kicks the pirate ship, sending Big Mom into a vortex, her fate uncertain. On the other side, due to Sanji's previous altercation with the Mafia, Kaido's formidable Tobarapo, Drake and Page 1, arrive to capture him. This Tobarapo group consists of the mightiest 6 warriors among Kaido's Shinuchis, including Page 1 and Drake. During the clash with Page 1, Sanji employs Germa's raid suit, which greatly enhances his abilities, leading him to adopt the moniker Soba Mask. Empowered by the suit, Sanji's speed and defense significantly increase, and the suit even grants him invisibility, a power resembling his long-desired clear fruit. Subsequently, Sanji overwhelmingly dominates his battle with Page 1. But Page 1 possesses remarkable resilience, making a prolonged engagement unwise. Sanji chooses to withdraw, not wanting to be entangled further. Meanwhile, in Kuri, Chopper, surprisingly, rescues Big Mom from drowning in a maritime mishap. Unexpectedly, Big Mom suffers from amnesia due to the incident. Chopper and his companions decide to care for her, referring to her as Madame Lin Lin. They plan to utilize Big Mom's power to rescue Luffy from the prisoner mine. They tell Big Mom that the mine has delicious ashiruko, a sweet red bean soup. Encouraged by this, Big Mom accompanies Chopper, and they set off for the prisoner mine. At the same time, inside the prison, everyone discovers that Kid has escaped, leaving no trace. Meanwhile, Luffy repeatedly assists the elderly Hyogoro, providing him with food vouchers in exchange for items. Luffy also fiercely confronts the prison guards who have mistreated Hyogoro. Indeed, Hyogoro was the leader of the Flower Capital's underworld 20 years ago. He was known for his loyalty and reputation, and he even refused the bribery of Kurizumi Orochi. As a result, Hyogoro found himself in prison, enduring harsh labor. Next, Queen arrives at the prisoner mine for an inspection. He apprehends both Luffy and Hyogoro, who are attempting to escape. Queen sets up a sumo ring, intending to execute Luffy through a multi-person sumo match. To ensure fairness, Queen even removes Luffy's seastone handcuffs. Following this, Luffy faces off against skilled members of Kaido's crew. He recalls Rayleigh's mastery of Haki and aims to improve his Haki level through this battle. This is crucial to have a chance at breaking through Kaido's invincible dragon scales. Meanwhile, Nami and Robin relax in the bathhouse, not expecting Drake and Hawkins to arrive with a group of men. They order the capture of individuals with crescent moon tattoos, and they discover Nami. Before Nami's national treasure, no one could stand their ground. Even Sanji, who was secretly watching, couldn't resist showing himself. Afterward, Sanji leads Nami, Robin, and the others to escape. Everyone is puzzled by how Hawkins knows about the crescent moon tattoo mark, and it seems that even Kinemon's special code has been exposed to Orochi. Currently, many samurai are arrested by Orochi's subordinates, and the situation is far from optimistic. Simultaneously, Zoro encounters a weapons collector named Gyukimaru, who manages to steal Shusui, a national treasure, from him. Just then, Kamurasaki appears with Toko, running from a relentless and constantly laughing masked assailant, Kamazo, an assassin sent by Orochi. Seeing this, Zoro engages in a duel with Kamazo to protect Kamurasaki and Toko. Unexpectedly, Kamazo is incredibly powerful, and the battle between Zoro and Kamazo is fierce. Adding to the complication, Gyukimaru takes advantage of the situation to sneakily attack Zoro. Despite this, Zoro lives up to his reputation as a swordsman. He clenches the blade with his muscles, preventing Kamazo from withdrawing the scythe. Zoro manages to seize the scythe and hold it in his mouth. Three-sword style, ready to strike.
Santoryu Rengok!
Finally, Zoro defeats Kamazo. However, he succumbs to his own injuries and collapses. Later, Zoro is saved by Kamurasaki and Toko. Toko generously applies to Zoro the toad oil she purchased from Usopp. Kamurasaki also reveals her true identity as Hiyori, the younger sister of Momonosuke. She had been rescued by Kawamatsu of the 9 Red Scabbards and has been living under a new name since. Due to the frigid weather, the three of them share a bed to keep warm, and it turns out to be quite a delightful and enjoyable time. Meanwhile, Luffy defeats numerous gifters in battle, yet he still struggles to grasp the advanced Busoshoku Haki. Hyogoro informs Luffy about a high-level Busoshoku Haki known in Wano as Flowing Cherry Blossom. He even demonstrates it personally, sharing the key techniques with Luffy. Thanks to Hyogoro's guidance, Luffy makes remarkable progress in mastering Haki. In Ebisu Town, Nami and the others gather together. They are deeply troubled by the leaked password. Suddenly, Tonoyasu enters the room. He recognizes the secret code and offers his assistance. Tonoyasu happens to be the father of Toko, a fact he reveals to the group. Toko would send all the money she earned in the capital back to Tonoyasu. In turn, Tonoyasu would distribute the funds to help the villagers and improve their lives. That night, Tonoyasu does something astonishing. He voluntarily surrenders to the Oniwabanshu, claiming to be the infamous Ushimitsu Kozo. The Oniwabanshu discover his true identity, causing a chain of events. As soon as Orochi learns of this, he promptly orders Tonoyasu's execution. Orochi even spreads the news through newspapers to amplify the event's impact. Soon after, Toko learns of her father's situation through a visit from Brook. She rushes outside, desperate to see her father. It is clear that Toko is filled with a profound mixture of fear and sorrow, yet her face still bears a strange smile. In reality, Tonoyasu's true name is Shimatsuki Yasui. He was formerly a daimyo in the Hakamai region of Wano, loyal to the Kazuki family. He shared a strong bond with Kazuki Oden and was highly respected among the people. During his time, he even led a resistance against Orochi, but Kaido's interference led to his defeat. Now, hearing about Yasuie's impending execution, the people of Ebisu town rush to the flower capital, determined to rescue him, with the assistance of Usopp and others. Facing the specter of death, Yasui shows no fear. He declares he is not truly Ushimitsu Kozo, just seeking attention. He admits to orchestrating the signals received by the samurai, all just a playful jest, mocking the seriousness with which Orochi treated it. He says the imprisoned samurai turned out to be ordinary civilians, not dangerous rebels. It turns out that Yasui had sacrificed himself to ensure the continuation of the Kinemon's plan and to make one final contribution to the Kozuki family. He criticizes Orochi for ruining Wano's beauty and mocks him as a coward afraid of Oden. In response, Orochi, angered, orders the execution on the spot. Countless bullets fly toward Yasui, painting his body with splashes of blood. In his final moments, he thinks of his memory with Oden, the respect from the 9 red scabbards, and the people. Yasui accepts his fate without regret, except for the sorrow he feels for his daughter.
Otoko. どれ、父ちゃんが肩車してやろう。よいしょっと。許せ、男。お前を残してゆく父よ。お父ちゃん、お父ちゃん、お父ちゃん。
Ultimately, Yasui meets his demise amidst a hail of bullets, leaving the execution scene in deep mourning. However, a strange occurrence takes place, as everyone's faces display a strange smile. Actually, the reason for all these strange phenomena is due to Kaido and Orochi. Several years ago, they began a large-scale procurement of smile fruits, with only a 10% success rate. The failed products rob the consumers of all expressions except laughter. What's more extreme is that, to prevent commoners from expressing anger and sadness, Orochi mixed the failed smile fruits into the food of the Ebisu villagers. Unaware individuals saw it as a gift, but it marked the true beginning of the tragedy. Thus, behind these seemingly happy smiles, lies the deepest darkness of this nation. At this moment, Toko risks her life to enter the execution ground. She brings toad oil purchased from Usopp, hoping to heal her father's wounds.
お父ちゃん、生き返って。この薬で傷が治るよ。もう大丈夫だよ。
However, this is just Usopp's deception, utterly powerless to change the outcome. Suddenly seeing Toko, Orochi becomes furious. He immediately takes up his gun and shoots at her. Just in time, 2 figures arrive swiftly, blocking the bullets. They are none other than Zoro and Sanji. Following that, the Straw Hat crew creates a commotion in the flower capital. While they can't kill the arrogant Kurozumi Orochi, Tonoyasu's body and other villagers, including Toko, are rescued from perilous situations. Meanwhile, the prisoner mine welcomes 2 new inmates. One of them is the assassin, Kamizo, while the other is Kid, who manages to escape but back into prison midway. It turns out Kamizo's true identity is the supernova killer. He was forced to consume a failed smile fruit in order to save his captain and took on the identity of Kamizo, following the orders of Kurozumi Orochi. Just then, Big Mom and Chopper, among others, suddenly storm the prison. Tempted by Ashiruko, Big Mom keeps causing destruction. Seeing this, Queen becomes extremely angry. To protect his Ashiruko, he transforms into his Brachiosaurus form and battles Big Mom. The clash between these 2 heavyweight fighters is over in an instant. With just one punch, Big Mom overpowers Queen. In the face of Big Mom's power, the entire prisoner mine descends into chaos. In reality, the reason Big Mom desires Ashiruko is to allow the residents of Okabor town to savor this delicacy. However, last night, Luffy secretly devoured all the Ashiruko in the prison. As a result, Big Mom turns her wrath towards Luffy, exuding an imposing presence akin to a mountain's weight. In this dire moment, Luffy successfully comprehends the flowing cherry blossom technique. He shatters the collar around his neck and leads Big Mom in a circuit within the prison. After a long while, Queen regains consciousness from his stupor. He devises a trap to lure Big Mom, using a technique called head crash from the sky. The immense impact surprisingly triggers Big Mom's recovery of her past memories, causing her to collapse to the ground. Immediately, Queen hastens to securely bind Big Mom and personally escorts her to Onigashima, where Kaido resides. Simultaneously, due to the chaos caused by Big Mom, Reizo takes the opportunity to join forces with Caribou, severing communication between the prison and the outside world. Meanwhile, Luffy continues to engage in combat with the jailers, honing his skills in the flowing cherry blossom technique. Kawamatsu also receives aid and manages to escape from the death cell. Inspired by the encouragement of their fellow inmates, the prisoners rekindle their determination to resist Kaido's rule. Collectively, they decide to break free from the prisoner mine and overthrow Kaido's dominion. In this manner, the Udon prison is successfully subdued. Tama, using her millet dango, tames a substantial number of Zoan-type jailers. Among those whom Luffy manages to rescue are Kid and Killer. Kinemon encounters Ashura Doji in a graveyard. Countless warriors who had stood against Kaido 10 years prior are buried there. At that time, Ashura, who had eagerly awaited the return of the Kazuki, bore witness to many tragedies, leading him to resort to banditry. However, now, due to Tonoyasu's death, Ashura once again sees a glimmer of hope. He resolves to join forces with Momonosuke and the 9 Red Scabbards to overthrow Kaido. In this manner, the 9 Red Scabbards have gathered 8 members, with only Denjiro remaining to be reunited. Ashura also acquires the map of Onigashima and numerous ships, sufficient to transport thousands of troops. On the other side, Hawkins secretly meets with Law. He uses the lives of Law's crew as leverage and successfully captures Law. However, a mysterious individual covertly sets Law free. Law, while in prison, defeats Hawkins and learns about the Kid Alliance's past. At that moment, Kaido descends from the sky, confronting the Kid Alliance. To everyone's surprise, Apu turns out to be Kaido's undercover agent and immediately betrays them. Consequently, Hawkins surrenders to Kaido, while Kid and Killer are defeated and captured. Meanwhile, Zoro, accompanied by Hiyori, finds Gyukimaru. They are joined by Kawamatsu, one of the 9 Red Scabbards. It turns out that Gyukimaru is a fox from the Shimatsuki family, serving under Shimatsuki Ashimaru, who is known as the daimyo of Ringo. In Ringo, people consider swords as symbols of the soul, placing them on graves. Gyukimaru and Kawamatsu once guarded these grave swords with the intention of overthrowing Kaido. Now Gyukimaru has fulfilled this mission and led everyone to the hidden weapons. The forces to overthrow Kaido are no longer defenseless. Furthermore, to bring Shushue back to Wano, Hiyori exchanges it with Zoro, using the famous sword Enma, which once wounded Kaido, a blade owned by Kazuki Oden. Oden had given both 2 swords to the 2 children, with Momonosuke inheriting Aim no Habakiri and Hiyori inheriting Enma. At Onigashima, Kaido and Big Mom have their official meeting. They begin with a fierce sword clash, the force of which tears through the sky. Then they shake hands, make peace, and celebrate with a drink, forming an alliance.
我々110海賊団と
ビッグマム海賊団は
海賊同盟を
結ぶことに
したぞ！
協力し世界を取ってからでもいいよな。
殺し合いの続きはよ。
On Kinemon's side, they modified the secret signal as per Tonoyasu's instructions. The original snake signal hinted at gathering at Habu Port, but the revised lizard signal indicated a change to Magura Port as the assembly point. This way, they could evade Kurozumi Orochi's watchful eyes and set sail smoothly. With the fire festival approaching, time was short, and everyone was preparing for the final battle. Among them, Zoro was taming the formidable sword Enma, which possessed terrifying power, capable of cutting through coastlines with a single stroke, but it required a significant amount of a swordsman's essence, truly deserving its status as a top-tier demonic blade. In fact, if a swordsman continuously enveloped the sword with haki, it could be elevated to the supreme grade. Therefore, Zoro was determined to have all his swords listed as supreme grade. Meanwhile, Luffy was diligently practicing haki at the prisoner mine, making rapid progress. Momonosuke led the 9 Red Scabbards and proceeded to the rendezvous point. The large army that had been assembled was now poised for the decisive battle against Kaido, with the conflict imminent. However, for some reason, Kurozumi Orochi was aware of the new signal. He swiftly prepared his forces to counter any resistance from the uprising. Nevertheless, challenges were met with resistance, and obstacles were overcome. Luffy and his companions did not retreat at this point. The storms of the future were bound to be even fiercer. With this, Act 2 of Wano concluded.
見てろ、カイド！
その陰で世界の運命をも揺るがす戦が始まる。
Hello everyone, I am Mr.Dishwasher. In the previous episode, we talked about the Fire Festival in Wano, which is about to take place. The army to take down Kaido has been assembled. The World Conference, shrouded in secrecy, has concluded. During this time, numerous major events have shaken the world. Among them, the newspapers reported incidents of death and assassination failed, seemingly involving Sabo and Vivi. Meanwhile, Drake secretly communicated with Kobe. He turns out to be a naval undercover agent, lurking beside Kaido. Additionally, the world government has abolished the 7 warlords of the sea system. The former warlords have become high bounty pirates. This significant event will severely impact the world's balance. Enormous waves are rising everywhere, signaling the beginning of the battle, Marine against the 7 warlords.
武者震いがする。久しぶりだな。
頼むぞ、おめえら。俺はその間に。トンズラだ。
On the other side, the Marines have learned about Kaido's alliance with Big Mom. This seems to be a rebirth of the Rock's pirates. In pirate history, the highest bounties were Roger with 5.5 billion and Whitebeard with 5 billion. Currently the Yonko have bounties of 4.6 billion, 4.3 billion, 4 billion, and 2.2 billion, respectively. However, facing the combined 9 billion bounties of the Yonko alliance, Akainu claims that the Marines have no remaining forces and lets the situation be. Back in Wano, the time has come for the Fire Festival. Orochi set sail to Onigashima, and the people are celebrating the Fire Festival, enjoying a rare moment of freedom. Simultaneously at the Magura port, Kinemon and others, surprisingly, do not see any samurai. They were expecting warships and soldiers, but all they see are the rolling waves. What exactly happened to turn the formidable army into a mirage? In fact, a day earlier, Orochi destroyed the bridge leading to the Magura port. Even the Sunny, hidden away, and other ships in the port fell victim to the bombing. However, in the face of all this, the 9 red scabbards are still determined to march forward. For the suffering people of Wano and in honor of Oden's will, everyone except for Momonosuke decides to bravely face death.
いいかお前たち。世界が動き始めるその前に、ワノ国を開国せよ。
41 years ago, Oden was a prominent figure in the flower capital, constantly attempting to escape Wano and sail the free seas. However, due to the country's isolation and unfavorable circumstances, Oden faced 38 consecutive failures. In the flower capital, Oden's mastery of dual swords was unparalleled, and his strength was evident when he struck down a menacing giant boar with a single blow. It was for this reason that Oden earned the respect of Kinemon, originally a hoodlum, as well as the samurai Denjiro. Back then, Oden's troublemaking nature led to a severing of ties with his father, Kazuki Sukiyaki. Consequently, Oden departed from the flower capital, attracting many who wished to follow him. These followers, unknowingly, lifted their legs in unison, causing the city to tilt. Subsequently, Oden met with Shimatsuki Yasui, the daimyo of Hakamai, and encountered a new servant of the Yasui household, Kurizumi Orochi. On the surface, Orochi appeared subservient, but in secret, he was pilfering wealth and continuously feigning a pitiable background, always borrowing money. Meanwhile, Oden embarked for Kuri, intending to reform the lawless land. On the way, he took in 2 young boys, Aizu and Kiku, and also found Reizo and Kanjuro. Later, Oden faced off against Ashura Doji and the ruffians of Kuri in a night-long battle, ultimately emerging victorious. Oden's magnanimity earned him Ashura's respect, and Kuri was transformed into the beautiful paradise village under his governance. As a result, Sukiyaki officially recognized Oden as the daimyo of Kuri, and the entire nation felt proud of him. Then Oden extended an invitation to Kinemon and the others.
俺の侍になれ。オデンさん。やめろ。鼻水出てる。
Thus Oden assembled his team of loyal retainers, with later additions including Kawamatsu, Inuarashi, and Nekomamushi. They diligently honed their skills, becoming the most formidable group of retainers in all of Wano. Years passed, and on this day, the Whitebeard pirates unexpectedly landed in Kuri, Wano, led by Whitebeard himself. Upon learning of this, Oden was greatly excited and immediately confronted Whitebeard with his blade, attempting to force himself onto the ship. However, Oden faced defeat in the face of Whitebeard's overwhelming strength. Nevertheless, Oden persistently begged Whitebeard to take him along, and he even passed Whitebeard's trial. After 3 days and nights of grasping the ship's chains, Oden finally became Whitebeard's younger brother, embarking on a pirate's life. During the trial, Oden also rescued a woman named Toki, who had traveled from 8 centuries ago. In secret, Aizo, Inuarashi, and Nekomamushi also joined Whitebeard's ship. In the following time, they experienced numerous adventures and forged deep friendships. Oden marveled at the world's wonders, discovering that the other side of the sea was truly splendid. To chronicle this journey, Oden wrote a diary and crafted intricate world maps. He also fell in love with Toki, resulting in the fruit of their love. On the other side, in Wano, the daimyo of Hakamai, Sukiyaki, fell gravely ill due to poison administered by Kurozumi Orochi. Orochi deceived Sukiyaki, claiming to be Oden's sworn brother. Thus he temporarily granted Orochi the role of acting shogun. The Kurozumi clan had once attempted to seize the position of shogun but had failed. Meanwhile, Orochi gained the support of 2 senior members of the clan. One of them possessed the clone fruit ability, using it to deceive Sukiyaki and even impersonate him, announcing Orochi as the new shogun. In the vast sea, one day, the Roger pirates and the Whitebeard pirates accidentally crossed paths. Without much ado, they immediately engaged in a battle. Roger effortlessly defeated Oden with a single move, and a mighty clash followed between Roger and Whitebeard. After a 3-day and 3-night battle, plunder turned into gift exchange. Roger met Whitebeard for a drink and learned that Oden could decipher ancient texts. Then Roger proposed to Whitebeard to borrow Oden for a year to fulfill his wish. At that moment, Oden was deeply moved by Roger's boldness. Because Roger uttered a sentence that no one dared to imagine. Eventually Oden agreed to Roger's request. He wanted to help Roger achieve his dream. And so, Oden embarked on the 2nd chapter of his pirate career. In that year, he, along with everyone, accomplished a world-shaking event. They aided Roger in reaching the final island, unveiling all the truths. Hence, Roger became the one and only pirate king. When everyone learned the truth, they burst into laughter, enlightened. That day was the day when everyone realized their dreams, a day of greatest joy for Kazuki Oden.
最後の島に着いたあの日、俺たちは世界のすべてを知った。ロジャーはあの時笑ってた。
ジョイボーイ、俺はお前と同じ時代に生まれたかった。800年誰も行きつけなかったこの最後の島にこんな名前をつけねえか。ラフテルト。
Afterward, Roger disbanded his pirate crew, while Kazuki Oden declined Rayleigh's assistance, returning alone to his homeland. He was to embark on his own journey, to open the closed-off gates of Wano. Today, Wano stands with smokestacks, no longer the once idyllic sight. The people endure oppression, their lives deteriorating day by day. This is all because of the treachery of Kurozumi Orochi, who has allied himself with the notorious pirate Kaido, stirring chaos in the land of Wano. Despite the harsh living conditions, the people rejoiced sincerely at Oden's return, placing their hopes on him to rescue the nation from its dire straits. Upon learning of the situation, Oden immediately set forth for the capital, single-handedly defeat numerous henchmen of Orochi. His fierce countenance, akin to a demon, sent shivers down the spine of Orochi. However, the elder of the Kurozumi clan, endowed with barrier fruit abilities, withstood Oden's onslaught. In the midst of this deadlock, Orochi resorted to taking civilians of Wano hostage, forcing Oden to perform a daily naked dance in the capital. He reluctantly agreed, with Orochi promising to release 100 hostages for each dance, and after 5 years, Orochi would depart Wano, bidding farewell to everything. So, Oden trusted Orochi, choosing to bear this heavy burden alone. He took to the streets, dancing day after day, in the nude. This spectacle left the hopeful citizens, anticipating Oden's triumphant return, bitterly disappointed. They had hoped for a savior but instead encountered a clownish figure. A year later, Orochi callously informed Oden of Roger's demise. On that day, Oden stood by the seaside, shedding tears, and laughter echoed in the air. He recalled all that had transpired, grieving for Roger but also feeling proud of him. Our captain had an extraordinary life. Then Oden continued to dance for many years, and time eventually rewound to 20 years ago. Yet, on the promised day, Orochi broke his word, planning to transform the entirety of Wano into a weapon factory, even subjecting Hyogoro to Kaido's cruel whims. Oden, pushed to the brink, finally decided to take up arms. He rallied his loyal retainers and set out for Onigashima. The setting sun bathed everyone in crimson hues, and the blades glowed as fiery as the sunset. On that day, the people hailed these faithful retainers as the 9 Red Scabbards. However, Kaido had received insider information and intercepted them on their way, confessing to the deception he had orchestrated. 5 years ago, if Oden rallied the strength of all the samurai in the country, he could make Kaido unable to withstand it. However, as of today, Oden's reputation has faded, and Kaido holds a firm advantage, sealing the fate of Wano. Upon hearing this, Oden expressed no regrets about his decision that day. Without hesitation, he drew his sword and engaged in a fierce battle against countless enemies. It turned out that Oden, along with the 9 Red Scabbards and the power of Shinobu, was truly formidable. Thousands of soldiers were defeated, and even Kaido's dragon breath was nullified. Seeing this, Queen and King intercepted the Red Scabbards in succession, while Kaido personally took action. However, at this moment, Oden's momentum soared to the heavens. He faced everything head-on, determined to prevail, even against a dragon. After a single strike, Kaido was severely wounded. However, the elder Kurizumi used the clone fruit to transform into Momonosuke. This distracted Oden, allowing Kaido to seize the opportunity and subdue him. Thus the campaign to take down Kaido concluded tragically. Oden and the 9 Red Scabbards were sentenced to be boiled alive for their supposed treason. Facing such a terrifying execution, Oden made an unusual proposition to Kaido. If anyone could survive the punishment without dying, Kaido must spare that person. Mockingly, Kaido agreed, making Oden a 1-hour bath in the scalding oil pot, a place of certain death. He believed that neither Oden nor the Red Scabbards would survive even a minute in such extreme conditions. However, Oden didn't utter another word. Instead, he jumped directly into the boiling oil. The searing torrent relentlessly burned his body, and Oden couldn't help but emit an inhuman roar of fury. Seeing this, the Red Scabbards rushed towards the oil bath. They wanted to accompany their lord in facing the endless sea of fire. At that moment, Oden made an astounding move. Unexpectedly, Lord Kazuki Oden bare the execution by boiling oil pot alone. Blood flowed from his mouth and nose, his body felt as if it were on fire. Onlookers chuckled, deeming him a foolish lord. However, Shinobu disclosed the truth behind Oden's naked dance. Back then, she had hidden in the rafters, eavesdropping on Orochi's threats to Oden. Only now, the people of Wano truly understand that their peaceful lives owe much to Oden, carrying the weight of the nation. Time passed, the fiery ordeal failed to break him. Oden endured an entire hour in the scalding oil at over 700 degrees. Yet, Kaido and Orochi betrayed their promises once again. They ordered the execution of Oden's entire family and mercilessly shot even the people pleading for mercy. In the face of danger, Oden entrusted his dream to the 9 Red Scabbards, declaring that a promised one would emerge in the future to lead Wano, and the country must support that person. He then threw the Scabbards out of the range of the boiling oil pot, and they fled with tears, unable to look back. To do so would halt their steps, leaving Oden's dream unrealized. Meanwhile, Kaido aimed his gun at Oden. Out of respect, he claimed to have killed the elder clone fruit user. Oden, rather unconcerned, replied to Kaido.
真面目だな。せいぜい強くなれ。俺の侍たち、トキ、モモの助、日和、行ってまいる。逃げてなんぼの。
And so, Kazuki Oden met his demise with a smile in the midst of the raging flames. His life was both tragic and magnificent. If the Pirate King, Roger, possessed an extraordinary life, the same can be said for Kazuki Oden. Afterwards, Orochi ordered the extermination of the Kazuki clan, and Toki, with her ability, transported Kinemon and the others to a future 20 years hence. Yet, she herself chose not to leave. This Toki from 8 centuries past had once aspired to witness the world's transformation in the future. However, upon meeting Oden, she realized that the era he lived in was the endpoint she was willing to stop at. In the end, Toki was felled by stray arrows, meeting her demise in the Sea of Flames. Wano fell completely into the hands of Kaido and Orochi, ushering in a dark rule. Over the past 20 years, Denjiro underwent a transformation and became Kaiashiro. He even disguised himself as Ushimitsu Kozo, robbing from the rich and giving to the poor. Hiyori, under his protection, became the top-ranking Oiran. Meanwhile, Orochi also revealed to Kaido the existence of a spy embedded beside Oden. This individual hailed from the Kurazumi family, with parents who were actors tragically killed on stage. Thus the spy harbored a unique obsession with performance. He had been acting as Oden's retainer all along and was even willing to die for him should he not receive orders from Orochi. Returning to the present, the Scabbards face an empty sea, their plans having been repeatedly exposed, leading them to suspect the possibility of a traitor among them. Nevertheless, they decide to press on with their battle, even if thorns litter the path ahead, because the next opportunity will come in a year, and the situation will only grow more dire. Just then, a sudden change occurs. Kanjuro reveals his true identity. Astonishingly, he is the traitor among the Red Scabbards. He manages to deceive everyone with his painting clones, stealthily reaching the harbor and capturing Momonosuke. It turns out, Kanjuro had been harboring his talents, as his painting skills were truly remarkable. At the same time, 3 of Kaido's battleships emerge before the group. They immediately open fire, intent on eradicating the remnants of the Kazuki clan. Just as this crisis unfolds, the Sunny sails forth through the waves, accompanied by Law's submarine and Kid's ship. With just one encounter, a battleship is utterly destroyed, and Kaiashiro also leaps into action, cutting down another battleship. Currently, Kaiashiro arrives with 1,200 rescued samurai from the prison to aid in the battle. He reveals himself as Denjiro to Kinemon. Then Denjiro expresses admiration for Kinemon and deciphers the secret code. The 2 horizontal bars on the snake represent only needing to focus on the snake's head, which symbolizes the embankment at Habu port. The samurai set off a day early, gathering at the embankment. The ships destroyed by Orochi's forces were all abandoned, and Kanjuro, unknowingly, didn't detect the clever interpretation. Denjiro greatly praises Kinemon's astute thinking. Kinemon pretends to be profound but hides his fear. The combined force of 5,400 warriors assembles. At this moment, Kanjuro quickly draws a bird and leaves with Momonosuke. Encouraged by Luffy, Momonosuke sheds his past timidity. He urges everyone to attack and assures he'll seize the opportunity to escape. Nevertheless, the samurai remain in grave danger. The final Kaido battleship from afar relentlessly fires, utilizing its superior performance and weaponry, leaving them powerless. If this persists, the plan to cross the sea and attack the island will crumble. However, at this critical juncture, numerous tidal waves surge from the sea. Their tremendous impact slices through the cannons and wipes out Kaido's battleship, leaving everyone astonished. Who is this person that has such supernatural power to shock the world?
Luffy,
and all the Straw Hat Pirates gather. Then, the group sets out for Onigashima, with a plan for a multi-pronged attack from the front and back. However, no matter the plan, there are always 2 blockheads who won't follow. Soon, the main gate of Onigashima Fortress is breached, and Luffy officially lands on the island. To celebrate Jinbe's joining, Luffy showcases his melodious singing. Meanwhile, within Onigashima, Kaido hosts a grand banquet with his Tobarapo under his command, and he asks everyone to find his missing son, Yamato. On the other side, the Pirate Mink Samurai Alliance has successfully landed on the island. In order to show their determination, Kinemon orders the destruction of all ships. Originally, the plan was for them to appear as members of the Beast's pirates to avoid early confrontation. But Luffy, as usual, couldn't care less about that. Seeing the lavish wastefulness of food on Onigashima while thinking about the starving people of Wano, Luffy immediately storms into the central hall, causing significant havoc. Zoro joins him in this action. Just then, Apu unexpectedly unleashes a soundwave attack. His ability is incredibly peculiar, and with just one encounter, both Luffy and Zoro are injured. Now, Luffy and Zoro struggle to understand Appu's attack style and are being overwhelmed. Just then, a twist occurs. Seeing the traitor, Kid becomes extremely furious. He immediately forms an iron arm and smashes Appu into the wall. In reality, as long as you don't listen to Appu's sound, you won't be attacked. Immediately, due to the fierce attacks of the Vanguard team, the front line descends into chaos. Luffy and the others continue charging ahead, preparing to face Kaido in battle. In the outer regions of Wano, Big Mom's children attempt to climb the enormous waterfall for the second time. However, just as they were about to succeed, Marco suddenly appears. He kicks the pirate ship off the waterfall, making all their efforts come to naught. As a result, the Big Mom pirates fail their second attempt to climb the waterfall. Alongside Marco, Nekomamushi and Kiku's older brother, Aizu, also arrive. However, Perospero has left the Big Mom pirates and is heading to Onigashima alone. On the side of Orochi, Kanjuro finally comes to him. Orochi and Kaido finally know the whole situation here. They also plan to publicly execute Momonosuke. In other places, the actions of various groups have been relatively smooth. Only Chopper unexpectedly encounters Big Mom while she is bathing, and she immediately recognizes Chopper's disguise, starting a pursuit. Fortunately, after some twists and turns, everyone manages to escape from Big Mom's pursuit. On the other side, Luffy gets separated from Zoro and the others during their usual activities. He happens to encounter the Tobarapo, Ultai and Page 1. Without much talk, they immediately clash. Both sides are stubborn individuals, and after a fierce exchange, Luffy finds himself at a disadvantage. Then, Ultai and Page 1 transform into their devil fruit forms. Ultai has the Pachycephalosaurus fruit, and Page 1 has the Spinosaurus fruit. After a few moves, Ultai manages to capture Luffy, and Luffy is about to transform into Gear 4th. Just at that moment, Thunder Bagua suddenly appears and defeats Ultai. The newcomer is Kaido's daughter, Yamato. Next, Yamato takes Luffy away for a private conversation. In fact, Yamato deeply admires Kazuki Oden's character. She witnessed the execution in the past and was deeply moved by Oden's feats. Moreover, Yamato obtained Oden's navigation journal. She was astonished by Oden's experiences and was inspired to follow in his footsteps, aspiring to inherit Oden's will for opening Wano. Additionally, Yamato has a past connection with Ace. 4 years ago, Ace, who wanted to challenge Kaido, happened to encounter Yamato. One was the son of the Pirate King, the other the daughter of a Yonko. They immediately engaged in battle. After a fierce battle, Ace and Yamato shared a moment over drinks. With Ace's affirmation, Yamato solidified her own ideals. Like Oden, she yearned to set sail and create her own life. It was from Ace that Yamato heard of the vastness of the sea, and she learned about Luffy's many feats and his grand dream. Thus, Yamato was moved by Luffy's dream. She made a wish to sail the seas alongside Ace and Luffy in the future. The next day, as Ace prepared to leave, Yamato made a life card for him. Carrying this card, Yamato could find Ace after he set sail. Finally, Ace left gracefully and bid farewell to Yamato. Yamato! Back to the present, Yamato eagerly wants to fight alongside Luffy. However, she is burdened with prisoner's shackles, a location bomb specially made by Kaido to restrict her freedom. Meanwhile, at the back door of Onigashima, Law uses his abilities to infiltrate the island along with several warriors. There, everyone successfully reunites with Nekomamushi, Aizo, and others. Later, they are intercepted by Kanjuro, leading to a fierce battle. After a brutal confrontation, Kanjuro is struck down by Kiku. On the other side, Orochi is in the central hall, preparing to execute Momonosuke. Now, Jinbe and Robin have perfectly integrated themselves into the Beast Pirates, and their disguise makes it impossible for others to see through. Then, Kaido interrupts Orochi's speech and announces the new Onigashima plan. He states that his and Big Mom's goals encompass the entire world and the legendary treasure, One Piece. They also want to get the 3 ancient weapons, Pluton, Poseidon, and Uranus. Additionally, due to the natural geographic advantage of Wano country, it's destined to be a paradise for pirates. Therefore, Kaido makes the decision to relocate to Wano and appoints Yamato as the shogun. This decision implies that Onigashima will move to Wano, and Orochi will lose his position. Upon hearing this, Orochi expresses astonishment and claims Wano as his territory. He rambles on, belittling Kaido as a freeloader, implying that without him, Kaido wouldn't be where he is today.
Kaido! てめえみてえなカジカゲが俺あっての和の国だろうが分かってるんだろうな。分かったならいい。ぶち殺す。
Unexpectedly, Kaido swiftly beheads Orochi, incorporating his forces into his own, totaling a vast army of 10,000. Meanwhile, Luffy helps Yamato remove the handcuffs with the power of flowing cherry blossom haki. The two rush to the banquet hall to rescue Momonosuke. At that moment, Kaido questions Momonosuke's name, suggesting that if Momonosuke isn't the son of the Kazuki family, there might still be a chance for him. However, the current Momonosuke, showing remarkable courage, declares his identity as Momonosuke Kazuki and his aspiration to become the shogun of Wano. Enraged by this, Kaido's sadistic nature doesn't get its satisfaction, so he initiates the execution. Just as things reach a critical point, Luffy and Yamato arrive at the execution site. Upon seeing this, Yamato immediately tries to rush toward Kaido to save his son. However, Luffy stops Yamato, saying that it's not us who will initiate this final battle. Just at that moment, the 9 red scabbards arrive on the scene, bearing the name of Kazuki. They gather the strength of many, representing Oden, and they're the ones who will start this final battle.
Oden!
Unexpectedly, the 9 red scabbards manage to injure Kaido with a single strike, wielding the flowing cherry blossom, embodying Oden's will. In an instant, the entire banquet hall is enveloped in a cloud of dust. Simultaneously, the samurai forces, including Zoro, Kid, and others, all reveal themselves. Immediately, Luffy gives the command to engage Kaido in full-scale combat. Upon hearing this, Kaido transforms into his dragon form, stating his intention to make Luffy feel the world's mightiest power. Before the words have even settled, Kaido takes the red scabbards to the peak of Onigashima. This triggers a full-scale conflict between the two forces, marking the beginning of a grand battle. During the battle, the Mink tribe transforms into Sulong and clashes fiercely with Jack. Sanji uses his invisibility skills to rescue Momonosuke from King's grasp. He entrusts Momonosuke to Shinobu and briefly engages with King. Following that, Yamato receives orders from Luffy to go and protect his own son, Momonosuke. Furthermore, Big Mom wreaks havoc at the gathering, attempting to capture Luffy, but her indiscriminate attacks ironically cause heavy casualties among the Beast's pirates. At this moment, Franky uses his motorcycle form to knock Big Mom to the ground, showing no fear despite her being one of the 4 emperors. He fiercely counterattacks.
Yonko?
Currently, Franky is supposed to battle Big Mom, but he ends up drawing the attention of the giant numbers and narrowly escapes a devastating blow from Big Mom. Just then, Jinbe, with Robin's support, arrives to assist. Together, they make Big Mom in a ball-like formation and send her rolling away. Subsequently, the battle escalates, with both sides evenly matched for the time being. However, despite being in enemy territory, Hyogoro feels that their side wouldn't lose, as this marks the 1000th episode milestone of the One Piece anime. The Straw Hat crew stands united, and Luffy vows to defeat Kaido. Drake's undercover identity as a Marine has been discovered by Queen. This happened because in the past, Drake let Law go in the Flower Capital, and someone secretly saw it. Following this, Queen, Who's Who from the Tobarapo, all surround Drake in an ambush. With no other options left, Drake goes to Luffy's side, and the two of them respectively take down a giant numbers. Drake then requests to join forces, as Kobe had previously spoken highly of Luffy's strength and reliability. Thus, the Straw Hat crew gains another powerful ally, with Drake joining the alliance against Kaido's forces. The ongoing battle continues. In the midst of the chaos, Nami and Usopp are closely pursued by Ulti and Page 1. Frankie lures one of the giant numbers, Hatcha, outside the hall. However, a new crisis unfolds within the hall. Queen uses Excite bullets for indiscriminate firing, infecting many samurai with the Ice Oni virus, causing them to become unconscious zombies. Meanwhile, on the outskirts of Onigashima, Big Mom encounters Perospero and Marco. She is not pleased with Marco's participation in the battle, leading to a clash between them. On another front, the battle rages on at the top of Onigashima. During the process, Inuarashi and Nekomamushi, transformed into the Sulong form of the Moon Lion, successfully sever the ivory of Jack, who has a bounty of 900 million. Now, Kaido has no choice but to intervene, allowing Jack to retreat for medical treatment. However, Kaido's dragon breath is split in half by Kinemon's strike. Subsequently, the 9 Red Scabbards begin their fierce battle against Kaido. At this moment, the Red Scabbards, loyal to Oden, unleash their powerful techniques, causing Kaido's dragon form to bleed profusely, while the sound of his agonizing screams echoes. After this, all the samurai assume the same stance, which is the Oden two-sword style technique passed down from Oden himself. Meanwhile, within the land of Wano, the populace is spreading the tales of the 9 Red Scabbards' efforts to conquer Onigashima. As they celebrate the Fire Festival, they also eagerly anticipate the triumphant return of the Kazuki clan. Today marks a rare occasion of happiness for them, and they hope to sustain this joy in the days to come. In another part of Onigashima, the conflagration, King, gives orders to execute the leader of the samurai. Meanwhile, Yamato stands guard over Momonosuke, with the formidable ninja, Shinobu. They face off against Sasaki's armored forces, engaged in fierce combat. In this crucial moment, Frankie arrives to lend support. He assists Momonosuke in escaping pursuit and confronts the Tobarapo, Sasaki. On the outer periphery of Onigashima, Big Mom successfully captures Marco, preventing his escape. But soon, Carrot and Wanda come to his rescue, transforming into Sulong form and helping Marco overcome the danger. Big Mom then chooses to spare Marco and proceeds to search for Kaido. In the central hall, Queen's Ice Oni virus continues to wreak havoc, causing many warriors to lose consciousness and attack the samurai force. Only Brook remains unaffected due to his unique physiology, and Queen entrusts the virus's antidote to Apu for safekeeping. Witnessing this, Zoro and Drake relentlessly pursue Apu, causing him to panic. In the midst of this, Big Mom happens to pass by, heading towards the top of Onigashima. Realizing that they can't afford further delays, Zoro takes aim at Apu, releasing the power of the Lion Song. And so, Zoro swiftly incapacitates Apu with his one-sword style, obtaining the antidote. Immediately, Chopper begins working on the cure, while Zoro sets off for the summit. In other locations, Ulti and Page 1 succeed in defeating Nami and Usopp, with Ulti's headbutt causing significant damage to Usopp's skull. In a critical moment, Tama arrives with her giant dog and ape, making a dramatic entrance. She saves Nami and Usopp and heads towards the heart of the battlefield. It turns out that Tama had managed to sneak into Onigashima through an enemy ship. Observing this, Ultai and Page 1 relentlessly pursue them, determined to capture the trio. Upon reaching the summit of Onigashima, Kaido, despite being wounded, remains unfazed. Kaido unleashes his demolition gust, effortlessly severing Kiku's arm. He proceeds to defeat one red scabbard after another, displaying his invincibility. Kaido even creates flame clouds, causing the entire Onigashima to float. Now, Kaido's plan is to lift Onigashima and fly it directly to Wano, replacing the Flower Capital. In doing so, the people of the Flower Capital will perish due to natural disasters, and Wano will fall completely. To make matters worse, at this critical moment, Big Mom also arrives at the top of Onigashima. On the other side, Sanji falls into the Tobirapo Black Maria's alluring trap. He is ensnared by spider webs, momentarily struggling to break free. The focus shifts to various locations on Onigashima, where battles are escalating. Among them, X-Drake takes down the barely resisting Apu, protecting Chopper. The Tobirapo transform into their true forms and engage in intense duels. Among them, Sasaki, the Triceratops, finds Frankie. Black Maria, the Rosamigale Gravojelly, encircles Sanji. Ultai and Page 1 defeat the giant gorilla, searching for Tama. Meanwhile, in the central hall, a powerful reinforcement arrives, Marco. He not only uses flames to help Chopper but also neutralizes the Ice Oni poison affecting the samurai, single-handedly holding back King and Queen. In this manner, with the assistance of Marco, Zoro reaches the top of Onigashima. Meanwhile, Yamato takes Momonosuke to a secure location, producing Oden's navigational diary and handing it over to Momonosuke. Yamato had once wept bitterly over Ace's death, and it was this diary's accounts that solidified her beliefs. She was waiting for Luffy.
Luffy, 君を待つよ。だからそれまで僕は、なら僕だって何度でも言ってやる。僕はおでんだ。このクソ親父。おでんは未来をこう書き記してる。次の時代を担う強力な海賊たちが新世界へ押し寄せてくる。カイドウを撃てるのはそいつらだ。
At this moment, several supernovas have finally appeared before Kaido. Among them are Kid, Killer, Law, and Zoro. The last one to arrive is none other than the Straw Hat, Luffy.
また増えたね。最悪の世代ってやつかい
？20年以上先の未来に次の時代を担う強力な海賊たちがKaido.
Peak of Onigashima. In this moment, Kaido reverts from his devil fruit form and speaks slowly. Unexpectedly, Luffy is defeated by Kaido once again. His eyes roll back, and he plummets from the sky into the abyss of the ocean below. Observing Luffy's fall into the sea, Kaido mocks him. It seems you won't become Joy Boy. Subsequently, Kaido receives information that Momonosuke has been located by the scouts. Deciding to personally finish off this target for execution, Kaido heads towards him. Within Onigashima's hall, Chopper and Queen's battle rages on. However, Perispero unleashes a barrage of candy arrows. Indiscriminate attacks not only severely harm the assault forces. Even Chopper is struck by the arrow rain, bearing numerous wounds. But Chopper remembers his bounty. He unleashes immense power, flipping Queen to the ground with a single blow. However, Queen's resilience proves formidable, rendering Chopper's attacks ineffective. Ironically, Chopper's rampage form is about to reach its time limit. In the past, Caesar had assisted Chopper in modifying the structure of the Rumble Ball, extending the rampage's duration to 30 minutes. Of course, the new Rumble Ball comes with similarly astonishing side effects. Now, once the rampage's time expires, Chopper will be left completely paralyzed. Just then, an announcement from the Beast's Pirates broadcast spreads across the island. News of Luffy's defeat is broadcasted far and wide. Kaido demands that everyone surrender their weapons and avoid being killed. Upon hearing this, everyone is utterly surprised. The situation takes a dire turn. The samurai forces are in jeopardy. Elsewhere, Yamato is engaged in a fierce battle in Onigashima. Carrying Momonosuke's puppet, she draws attention away, while Momonosuke is engrossed in reading Oden's voyage journal. Momonosuke greatly admires Roger's greatness, and he declares that he must not die here. Suddenly, a splitting headache strikes Momonosuke. Someone is entering his mind. At this time, Kinemon and Kiku finally locate Momonosuke. Yet, they were also spotted by Kanjuro disguised as Oden. Seeing this, Kiku tries to intervene with his sword. But even though Kiku knows it's an imposter, he hesitates to attack. Seizing this opportunity, Kanjuro stabs Kiku in the abdomen. Reverting to his true form, he mocks Kiku's naivety. Enraged, Kinemon holds the dying Kiku, weeping as he longs for the dawn of Wano's future. Unable to contain himself, Kinemon draws his sword against Kanjuro. In this manner, Kinemon swiftly executes a single strike and severs Kanjuro's life. As his life ebbs away, Kanjuro emits a sinister chuckle. If someone were to bring the curtain down on my theatrical career, it's most fitting that it should be you. After all, on the stage, you are my best friend. With those words spoken, Kanjuro falls to the ground, motionless. Just then, a terrifying figure descends from the sky. The arrival is none other than Kaido, ushering in a renewed crisis. Meanwhile, Onigashima is now directly above Wano, and the situation is dire. Bao Huang informs the entire island of Luffy's defeat, causing chaos among the allied forces. Chopper, influenced by this news, is gradually losing to Queen and is knocked down. Perospero, on the other hand, is creating a rain of arrows using candy, a barrage that threatens to wipe out the allied forces in the hull. Furthermore, Queen is preparing to strike Chopper while he's down. Just then, a man suddenly appears. Finally, Sanji arrives in the hall with Zoro to provide support. Afterward, Sanji asks Chopper to treat Zoro's injuries. He and Marco team up to intercept Queen and King. On the other side, Kinemon fights Kaido to the death to protect Momonosuke's escape. This situation reminds Momonosuke of their past. Many years ago, to evade Kaido's pursuit, Kinemon asked Momonosuke to disguise himself as Kinemon's own son. The two spent a long time adapting to this new identity. Since then, Kinemon no longer calls Momonosuke young master, and Momonosuke regards Kinemon as his father. So, despite their master-servant relationship, they share a father-son bond. Back to the present, with Kinemon's protection, Momonosuke finally manages to escape. However, Kinemon is fatally wounded by Kaido's massive blade. Then, Momonosuke suddenly hears Luffy's voice. To live up to Kinemon's sacrifice, Momonosuke decides to convey Luffy's message to everyone. Finally, Momonosuke uses a communication device to deliver the message, and the morale of the allied forces soars upon learning that Luffy is still alive. Currently, Cp0 is observing the battle from a distance. This is due to the betrayal of 4,000 of Kaido's subordinates in the hall. The initial military strength comparison between the two sides, which started at 30,000 to 5,400, has now changed to 20,000 to 7,000. Next, Kaido has finally caught up with Momonosuke. He effortlessly shatters the ground, causing Shinobu and Momonosuke to fall from Onigashima Island. Seeing this, Kaido doesn't hold back and leaves immediately. Then, Shinobu uses her ninja technique to ensure Momonosuke safely lands on the ground. In the middle of the sea, Law's submarine locates Luffy and quickly rescues him from the ocean depths. Upon awakening, Luffy loudly expresses his desire for meat. At the same time, chaos ensues all over Onigashima Island as various battles unfold. Among them, Law and Kid team up to face Big Mom. The heavily injured Ulti manages to find Nami, Tama, and Usopp. She even knocks out Usopp with a headbutt and takes Tama. During this, Nami suddenly discovers that the Climattact has merged with Zeus' soul. It turns out that when Hera swallowed Zeus some time ago, Nami used the Climattact to rescue him, leading to their fusion. Now, Nami decides to rely on Zeus in her battle against Ultai. While Usopp is still on the ground, he fires the decisive Green Star Sargasso, saving Tama and ensnaring Yamato in seaweed. This allows Nami to seize the opportunity for a counterattack. She uses the climb attack to unleash a powerful move called Thunderbolt. In this manner, Nami defeats Ultai. Afterward, Usopp captures the person responsible for the island's broadcast, Bao Huang, and has Tama use the broadcast to send a message to the entire island. Currently, Speed has already distributed Tama's millet balls to all the gifters. Tama also uses the broadcast to rally everyone to join in defeating Kaido. In an instant, under Tama's call, the gifters turn against Kaido's forces, causing a dramatic turnaround in several battlefields. The gifters now become a powerful force within the alliance, while the beast pirates, including figures like Who's Who and Sasaki, find themselves surrounded by their own subordinates. On the other side, Yamato approaches Kaido. She declares her intention to break free from her constraints and drive Kaido out of Wano. With those words spoken, Yamato engages in a fierce battle with Kaido, wielding her weapon. Her goal is to delay Kaido's advance until Luffy's return. The battle between father and daughter fills the heavens and earth with thunder and lightning. Meanwhile, Queen recognizes the significance of Tama and considers using laser attacks against her, but Sanji intervenes, preventing any harm to Tama. Subsequently, Queen and Sanji engage in combat. Queen reveals his modified body, as he was once a scientist skilled in body modifications and a former member of the MADS research team led by Vegapunk. Just like Caesar and Judge, Queen was also part of MADS. Now, Queen relentlessly fires lasers at Sanji. Simultaneously, Chopper experiences the side effects of the Rumble Ball, leaving him severely weakened. He and the Mink Tribe's doctor begin treating Zoro. Due to the severity of Zoro's injuries, only a specific Mink Tribe antidote can save him. This unique medicine can heal all wounds, but the drawback is that it inflicts double the damage once its effects wear off. Without hesitation, Zoro requests the use of this medicine, and the doctor administers it with a small needle. Next, the scales of victory tilt further in favor of the Straw Hat Alliance. 2,000 former enemies join their ranks, increasing their total strength to 9,000. Meanwhile, the Beast's pirates suffer heavy casualties, leaving them with a mere 16,000 soldiers. Jinbe stands facing the enigmatic Who's Who, during their battle, exhibits CP9's formidable 6 powers. Techniques such as Saru, Rankyaku, and Iron Body are all within Who's Who's repertoire. It is revealed that Who's Who was once a member of CP9, and he proclaims himself to be a genius on par with Rob Lucci. However, during a mission to escort the prized Gomu Gomu no Mi, Shanks intercepts and absconds with the world government's highly coveted devil fruit. Consequently, Who's Who finds himself incarcerated for the mission's failure, harboring deep resentment towards both Shanks and Luffy. And then Who's Who escapes from the prison. In the present, Who's Who launches successive attacks on Jinbe using Fang Pistol and Finger Pistol spots. However, Jinbe effortlessly evades these assaults, countering with Fishman Karate and executing a devastating shoulder throw that inflicts severe damage upon Who's Who. This moment prompts Who's Who to reminisce about a legendary tale he had once heard, the sun god Nika, who was believed to have the power to free all slaves. Suddenly, Who's Who taunts Jinbe by deriding his former association with the Sun Pirates. He asserts that all fishmen were once slaves and that their history is inexorably linked to slavery. These words swiftly provoke Jinbe, leading Who's Who to seize the opportunity and unleash a barrage of finger pistols. The sheer might of these attacks causes Jinbe's blood to spatter. Just then, Jinbe taps into his extraordinary Busashoku Haki. He begins by using his defensive capabilities to break Who's Who's fingers before, through sheer brute force, snapping his wrist. In the midst of this confrontation, Who's Who attempts a counterattack with Fang Pistol, but to no avail, as it fails to phase Jinbe. Jinbe then unleashes the mighty secret technique of Fishman Karate. And thus, Who's Who meets his defeat at the hands of Jinbe. On Frankie's side, his opponent is the Triceratops, Sasaki. First, they engage in a fierce wrestling match. Then, Sasaki transforms into his human beast form. He first draws a rotating blade and then spins his own neck to become a helicopter-like Triceratops in midair. At this moment, Sasaki launches a tornado-like assault, knocking down many gifters. However, all these attacks are effortlessly intercepted by Frankie. Seeing this, Sasaki suddenly lands and begins rotating his neck. It turns out to be Sasaki's secret move. He intends to use the wind generated by his neck to accelerate and sprint, attempting to defeat Frankie.
あいつさっきプロペラの回転方向を間違えて
Unexpectedly, Sasaki is quite comical. Afterward, he readjusts his rotation and launches a sprint attack, while Frankie deploys the general shield for defense. Although Sasaki's attack initially pierces Frankie's left shoulder weapon, he retaliates by performing a shoulder throw, slamming Sasaki to the ground. Then, Sasaki gets back up and initiates another Tricera bullet attack. This time, Frankie activates the hidden backup power source. He fires a cannon called the General Cannon, which instantly hits Sasaki. Seizing the opportunity, Frankie mercilessly beats Sasaki while he's down and fires another shot. In the end, Sasaki is defeated by Frankie. On the top of Onigashima, Yamato is still locked in a fierce battle with Kaido. She identifies herself as Oden and expresses her determination to protect the land of Wano. At this moment, Yamato activates her Devil Fruit ability, transforming into her human beast form. It turns out that Yamato's Devil Fruit is the Dog Fruit, mythical Zoan, model, Okuchi no Makami. In the past, due to hunger, she had accidentally consumed this Devil Fruit. Now, in her human beast form, the battle between father and daughter becomes even more intense. They even begin clashing with powerful attacks like Blast Breath and Namuji Glacier Fang. On the other side, Robin and Brook confront Black Maria. Black Maria has a few subordinates who can create illusions using mirrors. These illusions correspond to the saddest memories of Robin and Brook. Among them are Robin's relatives from O'Hara, as well as the Rumbar pirate crew and Laboon. However, both Robin and Brook see through these illusions. Consequently, Black Maria takes matters into her own hands and launches an attack. Her weapon is named Wanyudo, with an individual who has consumed a devil fruit in the middle, granting them the ability to rotate and spew fire. However, Brook employs his soul projection, Cold Soul, and instantly freezes Wanyudo, rendering the devil fruit user powerless. Following that, Brook turns to deal with others, while Robin engages in a one-on-one battle with Black Maria. Robin transforms into a sea serpent using Gigante Fleur. However, Black Maria discovers a weakness in this move, as any damage inflicted on Sea Serpent would also harm Robin. Subsequently, Black Maria uses Spider Silk to restrain Sea Serpent and dons Knuckle Dusters, mercilessly beating Robin. Not only that, but after dispersing Sea Serpent, Black Maria continues to bind Robin's body and launch relentless attacks. At this moment, Robin recalls techniques she had learned in the Revolutionary Army. She employs Fishman Karate and Ryusoken to temporarily drive Black Maria back. Then, Robin unleashes her ultimate move, transforming into her Demonio Fleur form. In this demon form, Robin's combat prowess skyrockets. She effortlessly blocks Black Maria's attacks and, in a counterattack, entwines Black Maria, intending to split her in two. In the end, Robin's demon form proves too much for Black Maria to handle, and Brook easily defeats Black Maria's subordinates. After the battle, Robin has expended too much energy and faints in Brook's arms. At this point, apart from Drake, all the Tobarapo members have been defeated. Kaido is left with only Big Mom, the three All-Stars, Perospero, and a few others by his side. On Luffy's side, they encounter Momonosuke and Shinobu. By this time, Luffy has devoured all the meat and still feels unsatisfied. Fortunately, Caribou appears in the nick of time, providing Luffy with food. Caribou wishes to aid Luffy in defeating Kaido, as that is the only way he can escape Wano country. At the same time, Luffy entrusts Momonosuke with flying him back to Onigashima Island. To transform into a flying dragon, Momonosuke seeks Shinobu's assistance in ripening himself using her ripe fruit power. In other locations, Reizo employs his shadow clone jutsu to engage in combat with Fukurokuju. Kid-in-law are joining forces to confront Big Mom. Furthermore, Killer is currently engaged in a one-on-one battle with Hawkins. Hawkins possesses the ability of the straw fruit. Not only can he transform into a scarecrow, but he can also transfer the damage he receives using the voodoo dolls on his body. Originally, Hawkins is not a match for Killer, and the voodoo dolls continue to deplete. However, he carries Kid's voodoo doll, which redirects the damage he sustains back to Kid. This prevents Killer from attacking Hawkins. Shifting our focus to the hall, Sanji is engaged in a solo battle against Queen and King. He aims to buy time for Zoro's recovery but is gradually overwhelmed by these two formidable opponents. Moreover, Perospero proves to be particularly cunning. He lurks nearby, preparing to use arrows for a sneak attack on Sanji. Finally, Nekomamushi arrives just in time and sends Perospero flying. He seeks vengeance for Pedro's death. Simultaneously, Inuarashi is challenging Jack alone to avenge Zou Island. On the other side, Sanji is continuously harassed by Queen and King takes the opportunity to launch a sudden attack in front of Zoro. He is also preparing to unleash his ultimate move to take advantage of the situation and eliminate Zoro. Finally, Marco appears just in time to intercept King's attack. Furthermore, Marco also recognizes King as a descendant of some mysterious race. In the past, Whitebeard had informed Marco that on the cliffs of the Red Line, there used to be a race capable of spewing fire. It was said that before the appearance of Mary Geoise, that place was considered a kingdom of the gods. However, this race had disappeared over time. Meanwhile, Queen reveals that the name of this mysterious race was Lunarians. At this moment, Marco suddenly raises his hands, sensing Zoro's awakening, and decides to step out of the battlefield. Finally, Zoro, after recovering from his injuries, joins forces with Sanji in the fierce battle against King and Queen. With this, the Straw Hat Crew's wings are reunited, ready to take on the battle. During the intense battle, Sanji suddenly notices that something is amiss with his body. Seizing this opportunity, King launches a surprise attack on Sanji. Following this, Sanji uses his Diable Jam to confront Queen, while Zoro faces off against King, who is armed all over his body. King is, in essence, a killing machine. At this moment, Hyogoro observes the battle from the sidelines and suddenly realizes that Zoro bears a striking resemblance to the late Shimatsuki Ashimaru, the descendant of Shimatsuki Ryuma, the legendary swordsman of Wano. Zoro, who has returned Shusui to the country of Wano, seems to be connected by fate to Ryuma and Ashimaru, and they are all one-eyed swordsmen. On the other side, Luffy has finally finished eating all the food, instantly digesting and healing all his injuries. Momonosuke, with the help of Shinobu, has transformed into an adult appearance. So, Luffy seeks out Momonosuke, needing him to transform into a giant dragon to aid in their return to Onigashima. Luffy has also witnessed Momonosuke's transformation into a giant dragon. However, Momonosuke is not yet able to fly, preventing Luffy from returning to Onigashima. Currently, the intense battle inside Onigashima continues. First, Law's crew member, Beppo, is assisting Frankie with his companions. Secondly, the Beast Pirates have begun chasing Tama, who is protected by Usopp. Thirdly, Big Mom is in a fierce duel with Kid and Law, using Conqueror's Haki. In this manner, Big Mom once again attacks her own allies, severely damaging the Beast Pirates. In other locations, the battles are ongoing as well. Inuarashi is bravely challenging Jack alone, but in his regular form, he isn't a match for Jack. Fortunately, Inuarashi shifts the battle to an area with moonlight, where he transforms into his Sulong form. At the same time, Nekomamushi also transforms into a Sulong form, and faces off against Perospero. Shifting our focus to the top of Onigashima, Yamato is engaged in a heated battle with Kaido. Gradually, Yamato begins to struggle as she is repeatedly sent flying by Kaido, her blood spilling. At this moment, Kaido threatens Yamato, saying that if she continues to play the role of Oden, he won't hold back with his attacks. Yamato, however, shows no fear and responds. Rewinding the clock many years, Yamato was deeply moved by witnessing Oden's execution. She was inspired by his unwavering determination. From that point on, she started calling herself Oden and wished to help the land of Wano. Inadvertently, she also awakened Conqueror's Haki. Later, Kaido learned about this and locked Yamato in chains, depriving her of food. He hoped to break her spirit using these means, but Yamato still insisted on being Oden. Now, Kaido, upon encountering Yamato's disobedience, promptly takes action. He imprisons Yamato alongside the 3 daimyos of the Wano country who have refused to submit to his rule. To further intensify the situation, Kaido leaves them with only enough food for a single person and a handful of dueling swords. This dire circumstance strikes fear into the young Yamato's heart. She finds herself not only exhausted and hungry but also in constant peril of losing her life. To make matters worse, she sees that the 3 unyielding daimyos of the Wano country, who remain steadfast against Kaido, are also confined with her. It turns out that these 3 daimyos are staunch supporters of Oden, and after his tragic demise, they have risen in rebellion against Kaido, leading to their capture. Now, Yamato is gripped by a sense of dread and fear. As if this weren't enough, the daimyo of Ringo, Shimosuke Ashimaru, suddenly approaches her while wielding a blade. Unexpectedly, Shimosuke Ashimaru uses his blade to slice through a mere insect, leaving Yamato bewildered by his actions. Shortly thereafter, the 3 daimyos present their meager food supplies to Yamato and share with her a well-guarded secret: a true samurai's stomach never goes hungry. Therefore, the famished Yamato requests to partake of the food before her. And so, Yamato consumes the solitary meal. Nevertheless, she remains deeply concerned about whether someone like her, who could be hungry, could truly become a samurai. In response to her thoughts, Shimosuke Ashimaru, with a swift stroke of his blade, severs Yamato's shackles. The 3 daimyos then embark on the task of imparting the ways of the samurai to Yamato. Unbeknownst to her, Yamato finds herself immersed in a joyful period of learning martial skills. Eventually, Yamato takes out a journal of Oden's seafaring adventures, which she has discovered. Since Yamato possesses limited reading abilities, the 3 daimyos begin teaching her how to read the diary. Within its pages, Yamato gains insight into the vastness of the world. She also learns, for the first time, that the world she inhabits is round. Subsequently, Yamato reads all the stories of Oden's remarkable voyages. The journal contains accounts of encounters with figures such as Whitebeard and Roger, as well as a series of extraordinary adventures.
海賊としての俺の第2幕。新しい冒険が始まった。世界は広い、まだ広い。行くぞ野郎ども。最後の島へ。
So, this is how Yamato comes to know Oden's seafaring story. Oden also speaks of a powerful generation of pirates who will rise in the New World 20 years from now. If he were to die, they would be the ones to defeat Kaido. From then on, Yamato's heart holds even more hope. She aspires to reach Laugh Tale and find One Piece. Even during her sleep, Yamato murmurs. In 20 years, she will fight alongside the people of Wano. She also wishes to experience the vastness of the sea. In reality, Yamato only spends 10 days with the 3 daimyo. She makes a promise with the samurai. She vows to protect Wano. Now, facing Kaido, who is depriving Wano of its freedom, both of them clash with a thunder bagua. Currently, Yamato fights relentlessly against Kaido, fueled by her convictions. Yet, Kaido emphasizes that Yamato still carries the blood of a devil. Furthermore, Yamato never had friends or comrades. She believes she has a mission, but no one truly considers her one of their own. Since childhood, Yamato lives on Onigashima, always on the run, hiding and scavenging for survival. Many times, she has to scavenge for scraps just to stave off hunger. There was a kind soldier who once offered her food and blankets. This is the warmth that Yamato rarely feels on the island. But the soldier is later executed by Kaido. Since then, no one dares to befriend Yamato. In her early years, Yamato finds solace in repeatedly reading Oden's diary. Perhaps only the stories within its pages can alleviate her loneliness. However, Yamato later meets Ace, and for the first time, she has a true friend. Returning to the present, Kaido mocks that everyone who helps Yamato is now dead. He continues his assault on Yamato, quickly overpowering her. Kaido states that this is Yamato's fate, to become a lonely child of a demon. On the other side, Luffy tugs on Momonosuke's dragon whiskers, urging Momonosuke to take flight. Momonosuke closes his eyes and flounders through the air. Fortunately, the two of them manage to reach Onigashima Island safely. After causing considerable destruction, Luffy returns to the top of Onigashima Island. Meanwhile, Yamato raises her weapon high and launches her ultimate attack against Kaido. Finally, Luffy makes his return to Onigashima and sends Kaido flying with a single punch. At this point, Yamato has successfully completed her mission, and Luffy now regards her as a comrade. Then, Kaido transforms into his dragon form, while Luffy rides Momonosuke, confronting Kaido. However, when the two dragons meet, it results in an eclipse, obscuring the moon. Originally, Inuarashi and Nekomamushi had relied on their Sulong forms to defeat their respective opponents. However, due to the moon being covered, Inuarashi and Nekomamushi revert to their original forms, and they are no longer a match for Jack and Perospero. The situation becomes dire. Meanwhile, under Luffy's encouragement, Momonosuke overcomes his fear and dares to attack Kaido, biting into him. Luffy also lands a punch on Kaido, knocking him to the ground. This punch serves as Luffy's declaration of war, boosting the morale of the alliance. Next, Luffy asks Momonosuke to prevent Onigashima from falling, while he stays at the top to face Kaido. At this moment, Kaido transforms into his human beast form, and Luffy takes steps toward him, reigniting the battle. Unexpectedly, Luffy and Kaido's confrontation tears the sky asunder. In response, Inuarashi and Nekomamushi once again see the full moon and transform into their Sulong forms. They counterattack Jack and Perospero, engaging in a fierce battle. After a grueling fight, Jack and Perospero gradually find themselves overpowered. Inuarashi and Nekomamushi launch their finishing blow.
Oden!
In the end, Inuarashi and Nekomamushi defeat Jack and Perospero. With this battle, the downfall of all-star level figures finally commences. On the other side, Luffy requests Yamato's assistance in helping Momonosuke. At present, Onigashima is dangerously close to Flower Capital. Onigashima's armory still contains many explosive weapons. If Onigashima were to fall, it would explode like a nuclear bomb, devastating Flower Capital. Kaido's plan is to turn all of Wano into the new Onigashima. Under Yamato's guidance, Momonosuke has learned to ride the clouds. True dragons create clouds to grasp and achieve flight, and these clouds are known as flame clouds. At this moment, Yamato suddenly realizes something even more dreadful. Due to Kaido's injuries, the power keeping Onigashima afloat has significantly weakened. The entire island is on the brink of collapse and is about to fall. Therefore, Yamato encourages Momonosuke to create more flame clouds. Only Momonosuke's flame clouds can keep Onigashima afloat and save Flower Capital. Furthermore, Yamato transforms into her beast form and heads towards Onigashima's armory to freeze the weapons, preventing the explosion. Meanwhile, in the Onigashima Hall, Zoro and Sanji continue their battle against King and Queen. During the battle, Sanji begins to feel that something is different about his body. Injuries that would normally cause bone fractures or breaks now seem to have no effect on him. In addition, Zoro manages to break off the tip of King's helmet during their intense battle. This enrages King, causing him to transform into his human beast form. He wields his wings, slashing out a vast wave of cutting air. Next, King uses his air slash attack to send Zoro flying out of the Onigashima Hall. Zoro retaliates with his three-sword style, Ultra Tiger Hunt, clashing with King. This move sends Zoro to the outer edges of Onigashima, and King's helmet is severely damaged. LCOR, robe luxissu dans les contacts Cp0. Currently, the ratio of forces between the two sides in the war stands at 12,000 to 8,000. Upon learning this, Lucci issues two directives. Firstly, if Kaido is defeated, the world government takes control of Wano. Many warships are already en route to Wano. Secondly, Cp0 must capture Nico Robin alive. Consequently, Cp0 immediately mobilizes and engages in battle with Robin and Brook. On Sanji's front, he uses his Diable Jam to kick Queen to the ground. However, Queen emerges unscathed and decides to use his ultimate technique. Queen flattens his body into a straight line, and his overwhelming aura leaves Sanji shocked. To our surprise, Queen's ultimate move turns out to be the Brachiosnakeus Stranglehold. Queen even boasts that nothing living can withstand this stranglehold. Soon enough, Queen unleashes it, and Sanji writhes in pain. Moreover, Queen's original body is equipped with firepower weapons. He intends to deploy this firepower to obliterate Sanji. In this manner, Queen inflicts injury upon himself in a unique manner. Sanji manages to escape the stranglehold and lands on the ground. At this moment, Queen confidently assumes that Sanji has surely perished. To our surprise, Sanji slowly stands up. Despite his body being twisted and deformed, he is essentially unharmed. He can even straighten his contorted body as if it were made of metal. Now, everyone is in awe of Sanji's physical transformation. Sanji is also afraid that he may have awakened his lineage factor and become a cyborg, just like his other siblings. What Sanji fears most is becoming a cold-blooded killing machine like his brothers. At this moment, Queen takes advantage of Sanji's distraction and attempts to strike him down. Unexpectedly, Sanji has become nearly invulnerable, which only intensifies his fear of becoming an emotionless monster. Consequently, Sanji suddenly becomes apprehensive and refrains from launching an attack. In fact, Sanji has only worn the Germa raid suit a few times. He can't comprehend why his body has suddenly mutated. On the other side, Killer refrains from attacking Hawkins, while Hawkins doesn't hold back and freely assaults Killer. He even uses a self-harming method to injure Kid. At this moment, Kid and Law are giving their all in the battle against Big Mom. Big Mom wields Napoleon, Prometheus, and Hera with full firepower. Just then, Hawkins gives Kid a pounding headache. Caught up in this, Law loses focus and is severely injured by Prometheus. It's evident that unless Hawkins is dealt with, Kid's chances of survival are slim. Meanwhile, on the other side, Killer, enduring a brutal beating, taunts Hawkins. He tells Hawkins that Hawkins must deeply regret surrendering to Kaido. The future that Hawkins aspired to is now unattainable due to his surrender. These words cut deep into Hawkins' heart. Killer then changes his stance from taking a beating and retaliates with a weapon. This time, Killer seems to pay no heed to Kid's straw doll curse. It turns out Killer has come up with a clever plan to counter Hawkins. Since Kid lacks his left arm, he won't be able to transfer damage to it. Subsequently, Killer retrieves Kid's straw doll from Hawkins' left arm, freeing Kid from the curse, and Hawkins transforms into a straw man, preparing for a final battle. However, Killer remains fearless, wielding his spinning blade, beheading claws.
トローマンは死なん。カードに従い復活する。タワー。
Ultimately, Killer successfully takes down Hawkins. The symbolism of the Tower Tarot card carries special meaning, out with the old, in with the new. On the other side, Apu unexpectedly encounters Drake, recognizing Drake's affiliation with the Marines. Apu proposes an alliance, hoping to seize any opportunities presented by the weakened Straw Hats and Beast Pirates. He is accompanied by 3 giants, Zanki, Fuga, and Inbi. However, Drake declines Apu's offer of an alliance. Meanwhile, Usopp and the others suddenly spot the lower half of Kinemon's body. Apparently, Kinemon's body, which was severed by Law in the past, has not fully healed. Now, Usopp and the rest carry the lower half as they search for Kinemon and Kiku. At this moment, Orochi makes a sudden return and communicates with the critically wounded Kanjuro using a Den Den Mushi. Orochi issues a command to Kanjuro, instructing him to unleash his ultimate technique, Kazenbo. Kazenbo is a creature that can incinerate everything, and Orochi's plan is to have Kazenbo assault the weapon's cache. When that happens, the entire Onigashima Island will be obliterated, and both Kaido and Luffy will cease to exist. Meanwhile, Yamato is also heading towards the armory with her own plans. On the other hand, Momonosuke is doing his best to prevent Onigashima from falling. In a separate confrontation, Kid and Law continue their battle against Big Mom. At this moment, they prepare to utilize their awakened Devil Fruit abilities. Kid uses Punkrotten, becoming immensely gigantic. However, Big Mom counters with a move called Ikoku, knocking Kid from the sky. Kid's fall is actually a strategic move to buy time. In the midst of the battle, Law employs his K-Room ability, attaching it to his sword to strike at Big Mom. The first aspect of this ability, Anesthesia, makes Big Mom feel as if the sword doesn't penetrate herself at all. But the true finishing move is the internal shockwave. As Law delivers the shock will attack, Big Mom is sent reeling, coughing up blood. At this moment, Kid also activates his awakened power. He grants magnetism to his opponent, causing Big Mom and the surrounding steel debris to attract each other. Big Mom is slammed down heavily, kicking up dust all around. However, Big Mom isn't defeated yet. She opens her bloodshot eyes and stands up once more. Using her Devil Fruit abilities, she attempts to take the lives of those around her. In the end, due to the lack of Ashiruko on Onigashima, the grunts around her have their lifespans taken away. Hera and Prometheus are restored to their original forms. Following this, Big Mom sacrifices a year of her own life, transforming into a giant once again, and resumes her fierce battle against Kid and Law. Meanwhile, Drake declines to cooperate with Apu. He intends to fulfill his pact with Luffy and defeat Apu. Drake also identifies a weakness in Apu's abilities. Sound-based attacks rely on hearing, while targeting depends on vision. At this moment, Yamato happens to pass by on her way to the armory. Giant Fuga immediately joins Yamato in her mission. Fuga holds Yamato in high regard and considers her his best friend. Suddenly, Kazenbo bursts through the floor, appearing here. It plans to set fire to the armory and ignite Onigashima Island. Cp0, who is pursuing Robin and Brook, is in the area as well. Due to the shattered upper floors, Robin and Brook fall onto Fuga's head. Cp0 is also engulfed in flames while in pursuit and plummets to the lower level. Now, realizing the threat of Kazenbo, Yamato promptly takes Fuga to the armory to prevent the explosion. Cp0 encounters Apu and Drake while chasing Robin. They don't want to expose their collusion with the government and are prepared to eliminate witnesses. As a result, Apu and Drake choose to collaborate to confront Cp0. On the other side, Sanji continues to struggle with the transformation of his body. While running, he reflects on why he has changed this way. In the distance, a geisha named Sum is searching for a mouse named Chuji. Suddenly, Sanji witnesses Sum being brutally beaten and injured right before his eyes. This terrifies Sanji, as he fears he may have harmed the girl in a moment of unconsciousness. At this moment, Queen catches up with Sanji and taunts him. In response, Sanji dons his raid suit. He realizes that wearing the raid suit awakened the lineage factors within him. Sanji recalls Luffy and how using the raid suit could potentially help Luffy become the Pirate King. However, Sanji is hesitant to become an emotionless cyborg. He swiftly smashes the raid suit with his foot. He also makes a call to Zoro and says, "We should be able to defeat the Beast's pirates soon, but if I become abnormal after our victory, kill me." Hearing this, Zoro responds, "I can do that, but before that, don't you die." With these words, Sanji hangs up the phone. He then employs his ultimate technique, Hell Memories.
おいおい薪をくべるな。地獄を見せてやる。
Next, Queen and Sanji engage in a fierce battle. Queen not only wields laser beams but also possesses the exclusive abilities of Germa 66. This includes the spark ability of Ichiji, the electric power of Niji, and the superhuman strength of Yanji. It seems that Queen has thoroughly researched Germa 60 SIXS technology and wants to prove himself as a greater scientist than Judge. Every time Queen uses Germa's abilities, Sanji takes the brunt of the attacks. Soon enough, Sanji is heavily injured by Queen. However, Sanji retaliates by kicking off Queen's mechanical arm and using a move called Flanchette Strike to send Queen flying. After a series of battles, Queen reaches his limit. At this moment, Queen decides to use his ultimate ability, Invisible Black. Surprisingly, he can turn invisible just like Sanji wearing the raid suit. However, Sanji is also invisible, but unlike Queen, he relies on high-speed movement to remain unseen. Suddenly, the geisha who was previously injured, enters the battlefield. She is still searching for Chuji. Seeing this, Queen decides to attack Some once again. It turns out that Queen, who was invisible, had harmed Some before. It was because Some had rejected Queen's advances, which made him harbor resentment. Just then, Sanji notices Queen's presence, finally realizing that Queen is the despicable person attacking women. Immediately, Sanji unleashes his awakened abilities. He generates even hotter flames on his legs with Ifrit Jam. Sanji continuously attacks Queen with Ifrit Jam. However, Queen resorts to a dirty trick, using psychological manipulation against Sanji. He claims that Sanji is now like Germa and will become an emotionless cyborg in the future. According to Queen, Sanji, being Judge's son, is a natural-born cyborg. Upon hearing this, Sanji finds clarity in his path. He recalls the Baratai, Zeph, and his identity as a chef. No matter how his body changes, one thing remains constant: he will always be himself. In that moment, Sanji shatters the chains of Germa.
そして海賊麦わらの一味黒足のサンジだ。ブフバーストトレゲス野郎。
Finally, Sanji defeats Queen. After the battle, he returns Chuji, the mouse, to Some. Due to his severe injuries, Sanji collapses. The battle at Onagashima's left skull tower comes to an end, with Sanji as the victor. Meanwhile, Zoro confronts King. Suddenly, King extends his head backward and rebounds with a move known as the Imperial Deep Pride Stake, which resembles a laser-like attack, leaving Zoro struggling to defend himself. King then takes advantage of his aerial advantage to bombard Zoro relentlessly. In response, Zoro unleashes his ultimate move, the 360-pound Phoenix Black Rope Dragon Twister. Surprisingly, King effortlessly blocks and counters the attack, sending Zoro flying once more. Zoro realizes that King possesses an almost insane level of defense, making victory seem impossible unless he can break through it. Elsewhere, Kamirasaki appears next to Orochi and plays music that stirs Orochi's desires, causing him to forget about escaping Onigashima. At the same time, the sounds of Kamirasaki's music reach Zoro's ears, provoking an eruption of Enma. Enma then suddenly bursts with power, draining Zoro's left arm. This forces Zoro to divert his attention to suppressing Enma's power. Seizing the opportunity, King launches a surprise attack on Zoro, intercepting his sword with his body and initiating a devastating explosion. A blazing inferno engulfs everything, but fortunately, Zoro defends himself using armament haki, emerging unscathed. However, when the smoke clears, King remains unharmed in the flames. Zoro and King lock eyes in disbelief. Zoro, refusing to give in, wants to test the limits of King's defense. Surprisingly, Zoro's lion song is just a massage for King. King then executes another Imperial Deep Pride Stake as Enma once again surges, affecting Zoro. He is struck by the Imperial Deep Pride Stake, causing him to lose his grip on his sword, which teeters on the edge of a cliff. In a selfless act to protect his sword, Zoro uses his body as a shield, only to be kicked away by King. At this moment, Zoro is heavily injured, blood gushing like a fountain. Yet, he remains the guardian of 3 swords, upholding his promise to the young girls. Each of these swords symbolizes unique memories. Sandai Katetsu is known as the Dishiki, while Wado Ikemanji is associated with Kuina, and Enma represents Kamurasaki. Now, King continues his relentless assault, and due to Enma's uncontrolled power, Zoro is once again sent flying by King. However, this attack triggers memories of someone from 13 years ago, an old man who used to fish by the East Blue. Hitetsu once mentioned that Wado Ikemanji and Enma were crafted by the same swordsmith, Shimatsuki Kozaburo. Over 50 years ago, Kozaburo left the land of Wano secretly, settling in the East Blue and founding the village of Shimatsuki. This village happens to be Zoro's hometown in the East Blue. Back then, Zoro encountered an old man fishing by the sea. The old man taught Zoro the spirited cries of swordsmen from the land of Wano, explaining that each sword had its unique personality. True swordsmen could tame a sword's personality. Additionally, the old man revealed that he once forged a truly formidable named sword, which he called the King of Hell. Finally, Zoro recalls that this old man was none other than Shimatsuki Kozaburo, the grandfather of Kuina and the father of Kushiro, Zoro's master. And the King of Hell is none other than Enma. Back in the present, Zoro once again takes up Enma, reminiscing about his promise with Kuina to become the world's greatest swordsman. In this moment, Zoro suddenly realizes that Enma's straightforward nature is not malevolent. Even Oden, in the past, used Enma and had his haki absorbed. Now, as Zoro contemplates, he is both impressed by Oden's ability to control Enma and determined to enhance his haki and accept the Blade's challenge. Releasing a vast amount of haki at this point strains Zoro's heart significantly. However, Zoro must use his haki to tame Enma. In this instant, his heart awakens to an even stronger haki.
Yeah. 王にでもなる気か。船長と親友との約束があんだ。
Surprisingly, Zoro awakens Conqueror's haki, causing those around him to foam at the mouth. Next, Zoro continues his duel with King. This time, he finally unravels King's racial abilities. Whenever the flames behind King ignite, his den fence becomes invincible, but when the flames extinguish, King's speed increases at the cost of significantly reduced defense. Zoro finally manages to cut open King's mask, revealing King's unique Lunarian's features: tan skin, white hair, black wings, and a flaming vest. It's said that providing information about Lunarians to the world government can earn you a bounty of 100 million berries. In this moment, Zoro unleashes his King of Hell 3-sword style, Rengoku Onigiri. In the Clash of Blades, King recalls his past with Kaido. Long ago, the government had captured King for experiments, as they coveted the abilities of the Lunarians. It was during this time that King encountered Kaido, who was attempting to escape from the prison. Kaido told him that only he could change this boring world. King decided to follow Kaido, and together, they escaped the laboratory. Originally, King's name was Albert, but it was Kaido who bestowed upon him the name King. From then on, helping Kaido become the Pirate King became King's dream. Now, King places his dream on the line and releases an immensely powerful flame attack called Imperial Fire Dragon. The magma-like flames overwhelm Zoro completely. King then suddenly accelerates, kicking Zoro away, but this weakens his defense. Zoro seizes the opportunity, locates King, and strikes him with Bird Dance, inflicting wounds on King. Following this, they engage in a series of intense clashes. Zoro employs the Ultra Tiger Hunt, striking down with great force, while King vigorously defends himself, swinging his heavy sword to send Zoro flying. After an enduring battle, they decide to settle it with one final move. King soars into the sky, igniting the most formidable flames. Now, Zoro has severed King's Imperial Fire Dragon completely. Utilizing a stone, Zoro charges into the sky, confronting the dragon made of flames without hesitation and reciting a poem. A loud explosion echoes through the sky as the Imperial Guardian Fire Dragon is cleaved into two. King's wings are also severed in the process. In this moment, King remembers his promise to Kaido. Regardless of whether Kaido is Joy Boy or not, King wanted to help him become the Pirate King. However, it seems that achieving this goal may now be impossible because that man is just too strong.
Zoro.
The three All-Stars and the Tobarapo have all been defeated. The main battles left are Big Mom vs Kid and Law, and Luffy vs Kaido. Meanwhile, many events are unfolding on Onigashima. On the second floor of Onigashima, Kamirasaki plays music for Orochi, causing him to forget about escaping. On the third floor, Reizo's battle with Fukurokugyu is reaching its conclusion. Both of them are immobilized by a binding jutsu and are continuously burned by the raging flames. They compete to see who can endure the flames the longest. On the first floor, Usopp has finally rescued the injured Kinemon and Kiku. Izo is holding off the beast pirates while creating a barrier for Usopp and others. However, Cp0 suddenly tracks down the Straw Hat crew and arrives on the scene. Earlier, both Drake and Zenki were defeated by Cp0, and the timid Apoo and Inbi fled in fear. At this moment, Cp0's agents do not intend to engage with Izo, but Izo blocks their path to support Luffy. Outside of Onigashima, Momonosuke is doing everything in his power to prevent the island from falling. Meanwhile, Yamato has made her way to the underground arsenal within the castle. Fuga immediately knocks the gatekeeper, Rocky, aside, allowing Yamato to enter the arsenal. Shortly after, Kazenbo also appears with the intention of igniting the explosives. Fortunately, Yamato uses her ice abilities to freeze the explosives. She then uses her Maharoba technique to prevent Kazenbo from detonating them. In fact, during the great battle on Onigashima, the people of Wano celebrate the Fire Festival. This is their only moment of freedom each year, and everyone is genuinely happy. Now, as the Fire Festival comes to a close, people write their wishes on floating lanterns. It is believed that deceased loved ones can see these lanterns from heaven. Originally, Toko wanted to wish to become a person like her father, bringing smiles to the faces of those in hardship, just like Yasuie did. However, as she put pen to paper, Toko had a change of heart. Toko's greatest wish is to reunite with her father and hope that he can see her longing from heaven. At the top of Onigashima, Luffy and Kaido are still locked in battle. They exchange blows, both equally matched. Luffy starts to find the fight more intriguing. Suddenly, Kaido begins drinking heavily and becomes intoxicated. He switches between crying, laughing, feeling lost, and getting angry. Amidst this, the inebriated Kaido does not forget to continue his battle with Luffy. They clash multiple times, with neither gaining the upper hand. Kaido occasionally stops to pout and cry. Then, Kaido resumes his drunken revelry and once again engages in a chaotic brawl with Luffy. They even start headbutting each other, competing to see whose head is harder. After one of these headbutts, Kaido enters a state of drunken rage. He unleashes his ultimate move, the Kundali Dragon Swarm, while Luffy counters with Gatling, keeping the relentless battle going. Now, no one from any faction expected Luffy to hold his own against Kaido like this. Even the five elders in Mary Geoise feel the tension in the situation. During their discussion, the five elders mention that devil fruit. For centuries, that fruit has never awakened. Yet, the government still greatly fears it, to the extent that they dare not utter its original name and have given it a new one. Their aim is to erase the existence of that fruit from history. On the other hand, the marine warships heading towards Wano suddenly come to a halt because Zunisha has arrived near Wano's shores, blocking the marines. Meanwhile, in Onagashima's central hall, Big Mom unleashes Fulgura, a barrage of purple lightning, knocking out Law and Kid. She also uses God of Lightning Tenjin to heavily wound their crewmates. Big Mom is now visibly exhausted, but she's still preparing to ascend to Onagashima's peak to assist Kaido. Just then, Law activates his K-Room ability, extending his sword and stabbing Big Mom. This is followed by an internal shockwave that severely injures her. At the same time, Kid summons a massive punk Cornadillo, a colossal bull that charges towards Big Mom, sending her flying. Now, Big Mom endures a series of relentless attacks, with her hand bones shattered. However, she employs her abilities to grant life to her broken bones. Next, she swings the Mazer Saber and easily slices the magnetic punk Cornadillo into two. Big Mom proceeds to taunt Kid and Law, saying, "We've ruled these seas for decades. Back when we were making our mark, you two were still in diapers." At this moment, Kid and Law each apply magnetic forces to Big Mom and the tower, causing her to be attracted to the tower, making her vulnerable to Punk Cornadillo's impact. Unexpectedly, Big Mom showcases immense strength, using her back to bear the entire tower's weight and withstand the collision. Following this move, Law and Kid launch a high-speed assault on Big Mom, further provoking her anger. Finally, Big Mom becomes infuriated and gathers energy in her Mazer Saber for a devastating attack, Mother's Visit Cannon, 3,000 Leagues of Misery. A colossal woman instantly materializes, possessing incredible power. Kid is the first to bear the brunt of her attack, nearly losing consciousness. In a critical moment, Law teleports the tower above Big Mom's head, toppling her. Then, Law uses his K-Room ability to pierce Big Mom for the third time, with his sword penetrating through Onigashima down into the magma layer. During this intense battle, Big Mom relentlessly punches Law, causing him to cough up blood. However, Law perseveres, not releasing his grip on his sword until it penetrates the magma layer. Following this, Law slowly utters his finishing move. At this moment, a violent tremor occurs. From the flower capital, one can see that Onigashima has been pierced by a single strike, and Momonosuke is astonished by the sudden appearance of a massive underground cavity. Despite spitting blood, Big Mom remains undefeated and summons Misery, preparing to deliver a fatal blow to Law. In this dire moment, Law calls to his bro. In fact, not long ago, Kid was nearly beaten into unconsciousness, reminiscing about his past. As a child, Kid enjoyed assembling steel toys in the ruins. When he grew up, Kid formed his own pirate crew, gaining notoriety. He even joined forces with Luffy and Law to battle the Marines in Sabaody Archipelago. However, Apu and Hawkins' betrayal led to Kid's capture by Kaido. It was in prison that Kid crossed paths with Luffy. Now, he has the opportunity to challenge the four emperors alongside Luffy. Kid refuses to give up, summoning the strength to stand. In this moment, he hears the call of his bro. At this moment, Kid unleashes his most potent move, the Damned Punk. Its immense destructive power instantly leaves Big Mom disoriented. During the collision of energies, Big Mom attempted to use her Devil Fruit abilities to steal the lifespans of both Law and Kid. She uttered the words life or slave, but to no avail. Kid and Law had no fear of the four emperors, rendering Big Mom's ability ineffective. Law also employed his awakened ability, Arb Room. This ability was akin to Courtesan's Silent Fruit, capable of nullifying any sound emitted by Big Mom. Consequently, Big Mom could no longer plunder their lifespans, and even Prometheus and Misery couldn't hear her cries for help. Subsequently, Kid unleashed the maximum power of Damned Punk, blasting through the earth. In the end, Big Mom was bombarded by Damned Punk from Onigashima all the way to the depths of the earth. She suddenly remembered Roger and felt furious about Roger initiating the Great Pirate Era. She was also angered by each and every young upstart who dared to challenge her. At that moment, Big Mom glimpsed at the distant Wano country, witnessing the joyful smiles of people during the Fire Festival. Memories of her own time on Wano resurfaced, and she was overwhelmed by intense resentment and anger. Big Mom swore that she would never spare Kid and Law. Unfortunately, what awaited her was the scorching magma deep underground. Finally, in a terrifying silent explosion, all of Big Mom's resentment and anger dissipated into silence. With this, the battle in the Onigashima Hall between the new generation and Big Mom came to an end. The victors were Kid and Law. From now on, the Yonkos were no longer an unbeatable symbol. On the other side, Momonosuke sensed Zunisha arriving at the Wano country. He learned that Zunisha had been a companion of Joy Boy 800 years ago. Due to Oden tearing out the most crucial page from the diary, no one knew what Roger had seen on the final island. Nobody understood why Roger, Oden, and the others had burst into laughter. In the weapons cache, Kazenbo was weakened due to the aftermath of the battle with Big Mom. It managed to escape from the weapons cache, while Yamato defused the explosion crisis. On the third floor of Onigashima, Reizo and Fukurokuju finally settled their score. Fukurokuju was the first to be overwhelmed by the flames, and Reizo emerged victorious. On the second floor, Orochi was pinned under a collapsing slab of rock, and Kamurasaki used sea stone nails to prevent him from transforming. At this moment, Kamurasaki revealed that she was, in fact, Kazuki Hiyori. This revelation greatly shocked Orochi, causing him to sob uncontrollably. Afterwards, Kazenbo reported back to Orochi, admitting the failure of its mission. It still harbored Kanjuro's soul and rushed onto Orochi. As a result, Orochi screamed in agony as he was engulfed in flames. At the same time, using a mutually destructive technique, Aizo takes down a Cp0 agent. At this moment, another Cp0 agent receives a sudden order. The five elders request the agent to immediately eliminate Monkey D. Luffy of the Straw Hat Pirates. This means interfering in Kaido's battle, which would surely provoke Kaido's wrath. However, the agent is compelled to obey the orders. Suddenly, Drake regains consciousness from his stupor, draws his sword, and launches a surprise attack on the Cp0 agent. Although this move severely wounds the agent's counterattack ultimately defeats Drake. At the top of Onigashima, Kaido hears of Big Mom's defeat, leading him to reminisce about his first encounter with her. In that year, Kaido was just 15 years old. He was a member of the Rocks Pirates. Big Mom told Kaido that he could come to her if he needed anything. Returning to the present, Kaido sheds tears of sorrow over Big Mom's defeat. Witnessing this, Luffy transforms into Snake Man form and continues his relentless barrage. While attacking, Luffy declares that this is his final Gear 4th transformation, vowing not to stop until he defeats Kaido. Soon, the two engage in battle once again, with neither showing any signs of yielding. Kaido unleashes various drunken techniques, including mimicking others and acting coquettish. Then, Kaido uses Kanbunshaku Haki to foresee the future, allowing him to evade Luffy's attacks and swallow him whole. Later, Kaido spits Luffy out into the air and unleashes his blast breath. However, Luffy defiantly withstands the blast breath and counters with an Overkong gun, a powerful punch that sends Kaido's blast breath back into his own belly. At this moment, Kaido initiates the Horai hack, a move that almost leaves Luffy gasping for air. This is Kaido's drunken rampage. Now, both combatants are pushing themselves to their limits, determined to decide the outcome with a decisive blow. It's the Overkong gun versus the Horai hack. Suddenly, a voice calls out, Iron Body.
Cp0.
It's the Cp0 agent, who surprisingly launches a sneak attack on Luffy, catching him off guard and leaving him vulnerable to a powerful strike from Kaido. Kaido is visibly enraged upon realizing Cp0's interference in his battle. Sadly, Luffy can't withstand Kaido's Horai hack, causing him to lose consciousness and drop down to the 4th gear. Strangely, despite being unconscious, Luffy's heart beats like a drum, as if marking a rhythmic cadence. At this moment, the battle at the summit of Onigashima concludes, with Kaido emerging as the victor among the combatants. Meanwhile, the Cp0 agent adjusts his hat silently, knowing the cost of provoking Kaido and accepting the consequences. Kaido, using a powerful lightning-charged blow, reduces the Cp0 agent to ashes. Subsequently, Kaido returns to the Grand Hall of Onigashima, proclaiming his triumph. Now, everyone else is exhausted, unable to stand against Kaido's might. However, they remain resolute, refusing to surrender in the face of adversity. Witnessing Nami's defiance, Kaido exhales a destructive blast, but this attack is intercepted by a blue flame, stopping the annihilation in its tracks. Once again, Marco steps forward to hold back the tide of destruction. In this critical moment, a sound akin to a heartbeat reaches the ears of Zunesha, which echoes in the ears of Momonosuke as well. It's the sound of liberation, the unmistakable rhythm of a presence not seen for 800 years. At this moment, Momonosuke had yet to fully comprehend Zunesha's words. Suddenly, a burst of laughter filled with freedom, joy, and a mischievous spirit erupted. The creator of this laughter was none other than Luffy. It turns out Luffy is Joy Boy. He has awakened the fearsome power of the Gum Gum Fruit, the most incredible ability. Simultaneously, the 5 elders are discussing the Gum Gum fruit. For 800 years, each world government has attempted to reclaim the Gum Gum fruit. However, it seems the Gum Gum fruit has a will of its own. Every time, it manages to elude the government's reclamation plans. Indeed, the true name of the Gum Gum fruit is the human fruit, mythical Zoan, model, Nika. That's right, the user of the Gum Gum fruit is the sun god Nika, the one who brings freedom. Awakened users possess the most incredible and bewildering abilities in the world. Returning to Luffy, he feels a surge of strength, and even his heartbeat becomes amusing. Luffy has designated this form as the highest tier, the Gear 5th. Meanwhile, Kaido is boasting in the hall. Just then, a dramatic change occurs. A terrifying Shanks Haki emanates from the top. The members of the Beast's pirates all start foaming at the mouth. Just as Kaido is taken aback, a gigantic hand descends from the sky. Finally, Luffy regains his combat prowess. He hauls Kaido back to the peak of Onigashima and mercilessly pummels the Yonko. Luffy's arm strength is extraordinarily astonishing, swinging Kaido around, leaving him dizzy and disoriented. At this moment, Kaido regains his senses and laughs, saying, "You're still alive, thanks." Before he finishes speaking, Kaido breathes out his destructive blast breath. And so Luffy, in his newfound Nika form, has returned. The battle reaches its climax. Upon hearing this, Kaido chuckled and remarked, "Seeing your continued arrogance puts my mind at ease." He further revealed that when both body and mind match the potential, a devil fruit awakens. However, Luffy's awakened ability indeed stands out in an extraordinary way. Continuing, Kaido expressed his losses, subordinates, castles, and the painstakingly accumulated things. He inquired whether Luffy was the same as his present self. But the losses endured by the people of Wano far exceeded Kaido's own. Luffy promptly responded, asserting that there are things he must reclaim regardless of the cost. Without hesitation, the battle escalated between the two once more. After an intense exchange, they temporarily backed away, catching their breath. Suddenly, Kaido said that the activity area below and the castle were engulfed in flames. Luffy's thousands of companions were at risk of being burned alive. These words served as Kaido's psychological tactic. However, Luffy remained unfazed by this attempt to unsettle him. He stated that he had entrusted the matter below to others long ago. His current focus was solely on defeating Kaido. With these words, Luffy charged towards Kaido, reigniting the intense battle. Meanwhile, due to the raging inferno sparked by the earlier chaos, a blazing fire is devouring the heart of Onigashima. Not only the Grand Hall and Castle, but even the towers have fallen to the flames. The current Onigashima resembles the Oden castle from 2 decades ago. In just a matter of time, everyone inside will be reduced to ashes. At this moment, the Straw Hat Crew's companions are scattered throughout Onigashima, seeking refuge from the inferno and attempting to extinguish the flames. However, the entire island is ablaze, making every corner perilous. Furthermore, Onigashima is still airborne, rendering escape impossible. This is indeed the terrifying scenario depicted by this episode's title, No Way Out. A hellish scene on Onigashima. Initially, Nami intended to have Zeus create rain to quench the flames. Yet, facing the intensity of the blaze, even Zeus is powerless. In this instant, everyone on Onigashima is confronted with the engulfing flames. Among them, Beppo, who is particularly sensitive to heat, finds himself weakened and immobile. Law's crew members are left to protect him and evade the inferno. On another front, the samurai encounter Brook and Robin. They mistakenly believe that Brook is a person burned to death by the flames. In reality, the situation on Onigashima has reached a critical juncture. Robin conveys that they are currently unable to escape by ascending to the sky. Sanji, along with the Geishas, struggles to find a secure route. Even the deserters, Apua and Inbi, engage in conflict as they seek to flee for their lives. Apua urges Inbi to break through a wall and make their escape, but Inbi is scalded by the wall's heat. He almost clashes with Apua, who blames him. Elsewhere, Usopp employs the Green Star Sprinkler to douse the flames. Unfortunately, this botanical thing is swiftly consumed by the fire, becoming fuel for the inferno. Within the right tower of Onigashima, Frankie cradles Zoro, sprinting for safety. His intention is to find Chopper and tend to Zoro's worsening wounds. However, a massive fire is tailing closely, threatening to engulf them all. Amidst this peril, a newcomer of the Straw Hat crew hailing from Fishman District and a ninja from the village hidden in mist step forth. On the 4th floor of the castle, Jinbe and Reizo come together. They make a pact to combat the raging flames that consume Onigashima. Reizo had experienced the burning of Oden Castle by Kaido and was tormented by his inability to save the Kazuki clan. This haunting memory has driven him to prepare for this moment. Not long ago, he reached Zou Island and witnessed Zunesha's cleansing bath, using his ninja technique to stockpile the water. Now, Reizo and Jinbe start their showtime. Finally, Jinbe and Reizo choreograph a remarkable collaboration. Reizo produces Zunesha's water while Jinbe disperses it across Onigashima. Even those on the 1st floor, including Killer and Kaido's subordinates, find reprieve. The relentless blaze that entrapped everyone is gradually being extinguished. Meanwhile, Yamato realizes that Kaido has reached his limits. She urges Momonosuke to hasten his actions in creating Flame Cloud. This is crucial because if Kaido is defeated, the flame cloud upholding Onigashima will dissipate, resulting in a fatal plummet from a height of 10,000 meters. On another front, the climactic clash between Luffy and Kaido unfolds. Emerging from the cloud layer, Luffy transforms into the thunderous deity Zeus. The story continues from episode 1073, with Luffy wielding lightning like a thunder god. Seeing this, Kaido is greatly surprised and remarks on Luffy's recklessness. But Luffy does not fear. He once again summons lightning, a force as mighty as thunder. Surprisingly, Kaido easily counters Luffy's lightning attack. Kaido teaches Luffy that Conqueror's Haki surpasses Devil Fruit abilities. But Luffy doesn't hesitate and launches a fierce lightning attack. Currently, Kaido's strike leaves Luffy disoriented, soaring into the thunderclouds. Unexpectedly, Luffy reaches out with a hand towards Kaido in the midst of the thunderclouds. At this moment, Luffy grips Kaido tightly but exposes his own position. Promptly, Kaido unleashes Demolition Gust attack on Luffy. Nevertheless, despite the blood spraying, Luffy refuses to let go. He's gathering energy to execute his final move. Meanwhile, Yamato encourages Momonosuke to release the flame cloud quickly. However, Momonosuke claims he can't do it. In a fleeting moment, Momonosuke recalls an event from 20 years ago. Back then, his mother wanted to send him 20 years into the future. She hoped he could revive the Kazuki family. During that time, Momonosuke had also said he couldn't do it. After all, he was just a child. Fortunately, Kinemon and the others display the spirit of samurai. They want to travel 20 years ahead and fight for their lord, even if it means facing death in battle. Finally, Momonosuke receives encouragement. He gathers his courage and is willing to shoulder the family's mission 20 years from now. Returning to the present, Momonosuke finally never give up. He resolves to create Flame Cloud, halting Onagashima's descent. Otherwise, he would face his mother with shame. In flower capital of Wano, the fire festival nears its conclusion. Lanterns ascend into the sky, marking the final revelries. They talk about returning to slavery tomorrow, laughly, hoping to live yet another year. And Toko gazes at her own lantern, hoping for it to reach her father's heavenly abode. Atop Onigashima, Kaido uses a fiery blast breath against Luffy. But despite his charred state, Luffy refuses to let go. On the other side, within Onigashima, the fire crisis is being solved by Jinbe and Reizo. However, the samurai sense the island's impending doom. Once it falls, death becomes inevitable for all. Surprisingly, the situation brings them laughing, as it signifies Kaido's reaching his limits. Compared to their own demise, they wish for Kaido's defeat. For these samurai have families. And they hope for a better Wano for their families. Thus, Hyogoro laughs and says, "If there's no life left, so be it." At the same time, the tremors atop Onigashima dislodge the seastone spikes. Orochi regain his freedom, assuming his fruit form. Now, Orochi remains only a single serpent head. He seeks to take Kazuki Hiyori to the depths with himself. On the top of Onigashima, Luffy hears the heartfelt desires of the people. These is the longings of the citizens of Wano, who had been enslaved for 2 decades.
ここを腹いっぱい飯の食える国にしてやるって。国を取り戻すために俺たちは戦った。なあ麦わらの人、ワノ国には必ず夜明けはやってくる。
At this moment, Luffy carries the hopes of everyone on his shoulders. He has finally gathered the last of his energy to unleash his ultimate move, the Budgerung Gun.
全部終わらせるぞ。
よせ、マジでござるルフィ。拙者はまだ。
お前を信じてる。
In front of Luffy, the once mighty dragon Kaido appears as a miniature dragon. Witnessing this, Kaido smiles at Luffy and says, "I'll take this one head on." Without delay, Kaido unleashes his ultimate technique, the Flame Dragon Torch.
逃げやしねえよ。10年前、この国の英雄が焼かれて死んだ。
To everyone's surprise, Kaido breathes scorching molten flames, forming a colossal lava dragon as immense as Luffy's fist. The searing heat burns Luffy's palm, and even Onagashima's skull horn melts upon contact with the fire dragon. Kaido takes flight, warning Luffy that his punch will melt before it lands. In response, Luffy claims that he won't melt because he has mastered Flowing Cherry Blossom, an attack that doesn't require physical contact. With that, both of them unleash their ultimate moves, Budgerung Gun vs Flame Bagua. And so, Luffy and Kaido engage in an intense clash of their ultimate techniques, with no clear victor emerging yet. Inside Onigashima, the samurai shout and cheer for Luffy. The 9 red scabbards, burdened with a heavy mission for 20 years, finally have a chance to accomplish what they set out to do. 20 years ago, the 9 red scabbards escaped with tears in their eyes, unable to bear looking back at Oden as he fell into boiling oil pot. From then on, Wano fell under the control of Kaido and Orochi. They killed Lady Toki and suppressed any resistance from the samurai. Even the once majestic Oden castle became a ruin in the raging fire. When Orochi demanded the submission of the other 4 daimyos, the daimyos had only one answer: to march to Flower Capital and defeat Orochi. However, Kaido's might proved overwhelming. He used the dragon's flame to burn countless people and defeated the samurai army. It was Kaido's strength that allowed Orochi to become so arrogant. Later in Wano country, things took a dire turn as the once beautiful nation turned into a weapon manufacturing factory. The young men were forcibly taken to toil as laborers, and the serene rivers gradually became polluted, depriving the people of clean water. The land suffered from contamination, making it impossible to cultivate crops. Inside the factories, workers labored tirelessly, and many succumbed to exhaustion and died. Conversely, Orochi lived a luxurious life. He even used the nefarious Smile Devil fruits to strip away the people's emotions, leaving them with nothing but painful laughter. Orochi firmly believed that no one could save Wano because the nation had isolated itself from the world. Fast forward to the present, Orochi's arrogance resurfaces, and he declares his intent to kill Hiyori and meet his demise with her. Just as tension escalates, a sudden turn of events occurs.
うちの侍たちを黒ずみの怨念侮るな。修羅場でござる。
Finally, Denjiro appears just in time and swiftly decapitated Orochi. He protects Hiyori, just as he had for the past 20 years. Now, Hiyori no longer need to endure Orochi and could return to being her true self. At the same time, the people of Wano releases lanterns into the sky, symbolizing everyone's hopeful wishes. Today, there's a strong possibility that these wishes will come true. At this moment, Momonosuke thinks of his parents and sister and charges towards Onigashima, pushing with all his might. Meanwhile, on the other side, Luffy and Kaido continues their intense clash, filling the sky with terrifying energy. The question remained, who would emerge victorious? Luffy is using the Bajrang gun against Kaido's flame Bagua. At this moment, both sides are in a power struggle, unable to gain the upper hand. Kaido tells Luffy, "It's quite impressive that you've held on until now. However, you cannot change the world." At this point, Kaido reminisces about his past. 49 years ago, a 10-year-old Kaido was hailed as the ultimate soldier of the Vodka Kingdom, engaging in numerous battles on the kingdom's behalf. The Vodka Kingdom constantly plundered money to afford the celestial tribute for the world nobles. At that time, Kaido couldn't comprehend why everyone had to bow down to the world nobles. 46 years ago, the kingdom attempted to secure the right to attend the levee by conscripting Kaido into the Marines against his will. Kaido didn't want to be a political tool, so he escaped from the Marine ship. Kaido saw his first bounty, an astonishing 70 million. A few years later, Kaido arrived at Pirate Island. At the tender age of 15, he defeated many pirates on the island. It was during this time that Kaido met Whitebeard. Whitebeard mentioned that Rocks wanted to meet Kaido. Not long after, Kaido joined the Rocks pirates. People believed that the Rocks pirates were invincible. After all, the members of this pirate crew were all monsters. Some time passed, and the Rocks pirates encountered a significant event. They were going to God Valley. Next, people heard about the fall of the Rocks pirates at God Valley. It is said that they were defeated by a small naval officer named Garp. Afterward, Kaido began to establish himself and form the Beast Pirates. Unbeknownst to many, 10 years swiftly passed. Kaido grew even mightier than before, earning the moniker Embodiment of Brutality. He had a particular fondness for employing force as a means to resolve issues. Kaido's philosophy adhered to the principle of survival of the fittest. Subsequently, the elders of the Kurazumi clan approached Kaido with a proposition for an alliance. Thus, they formed a malevolent coalition. Their sinister aim was to transform Wano into a weapon manufacturing hub. Kaido harbored ambitions of toppling the world nobles and placing the celestial dragons on the battlefield to experience true equality and freedom. Kaido's belief rested upon the notion that only through wars could humanity's worth be determined. One day, Kaido engaged in a conversation with King. He couldn't understand where Yamato had heard the name of Joy Boy who Oden was waiting for. Kaido informed King, "If Joy Boy is the same man that you are waiting for, then I know who he is." Returning to the present, the collision energy between Kaido and Luffy fills the heavens and the earth. At this moment, a surviving Cp0 agent manages to escape Onigashima. Meanwhile, Momonosuke is diligently creating flame clouds. In the flower capital, people conclude the fire festival with their final moments of laughter. Within Onigashima, Jinbe and Reizo use the Zo water to extinguish the fires, putting an end to the Great Fire Crisis. On the second floor of Onigashima, Denjiro holds Hiyori and says, "You've done well, really well, to have endured this for so many years." Now, as this prolonged and epic battle approaches its climax, everyone has overcome countless obstacles. There are only two remaining questions to answer. First, can Luffy defeat Kaido? Second, can Momonosuke protect Onigashima and Flower Capital?
お前が腹いっぱい飯食える国にしてやる。俺はたちが腹いっぱい世界
キング、俺はジョイボーイが誰だか分かった。この先俺を倒した男だ。
Ultimately, Luffy defeats Kaido using the Bajrang gun. Momonosuke also creates flame clouds. At this moment, Kaido falls into a state of unconsciousness, and he continues to plummet into the magma layer beneath, becoming neighbors with Big Mom. And that's how it ends for Kaido and Big Mom. Next, Yamato arrives at Luffy's side and catches him. She loudly exclaims, "You guys are amazing. Truly amazing." With this, the 20-year-long battle comes to a close. The winner is Straw Hat Luffy. At this moment, the victorious cheers resonate throughout Onigashima. Finally, after nearly 100 episodes of the anime, they have defeated the Four Emperors Alliance and achieved this miraculous victory. Yamato personally steps forward to subdue the remnants of the Beast's pirates. At the same time, the people of the Flower Capital are gazing at the sky lanterns. Not long ago, Toko once again modified the wishes written on the lanterns. She did this because she heard that Yasuie sacrificed himself to preserve the spark of hope for the samurai of Wano. All of this was done to ensure a happier future for Toko in this country. Upon hearing this, Toko couldn't help but recall a memory of Yasuie. There was a time when Toko accidentally consumed a failure smile fruit. Yasuie knew about it and didn't blame her. He ate another failure smile fruit for Toko's sake.
父にもくれぬか。
いいよ、笑う角には福来たる。どこも踊るか。こりゃ将来は和の国一の舞手だな。
Now Toko understands everything her father did for this country. That's why she modified the wishes on the sky lanterns. She changed the original, "Dad, I miss you," to "Dad, thank you." At this moment, Momonosuke and Zunesha communicate in their minds. After careful consideration, Momonosuke decides not to open the Wano for now. Zunesha responds, expressing faith in Momonosuke's judgment and obedience to his orders. Just then, everyone feels an earthquake, and the magma engulfs Kaido and Big Mom's bodies. Accompanied by a deafening explosion, a submarine volcano unexpectedly erupts.
和の国天上決戦、勝者カイドウ改め麦わらのルフィ。
And that's how it goes, with the magma swallowing everything around, including Kaido and Big Mom. At the same time, the people of the Flower Capital hear this thunderous explosion. Momonosuke arrives in the Flower Capital and tries to calm everyone down. Surprisingly, the people of the Flower Capital scatter in fear, mistaking Momonosuke for Kaido. Seeing this, Momonosuke cancels the dragon form, and the Red Scabbards and Hiyori calmly approach the frightened crowd. The appearance of the Kazuki family leaves everyone in shock. Denjiro then informs everyone that the new shogun of Wano is right behind them.
和の国の新しい将軍をお連れしている。
The Red Scabbards and Hiyori have appeared before the people of Flower Capital. Even after 20 years, the memories of the Red Scabbards remain vivid in everyone's minds. Light scroll snails have been prepared for people all across Wano to witness this momentous occasion. Thus, people from every corner of the land of Wano have the opportunity to see the Red Scabbards. On the other side, Yamato gets acquainted with all the members of the Straw Hat crew. Both sides enjoy each other, except for Luffy and Zoro, who are undergoing treatment due to their severe injuries. During this time, Tama reveals that her ability to create millet balls will expire in a month. However, Speed expresses her desire to continue staying by Tama's side. Next, everyone's attention is drawn to the Light Scroll Snail. At this moment, the Red Scabbards collectively kneel down to welcome a particular figure. This figure slowly speaks, saying, "It has been 20 long years since my father Kazuki Oden died. You have all done exceptionally well to have survived this protracted winter. The freedoms of the Fire Festival shall not end tonight. Starting tomorrow, all of you will be able to live as you wish. You will no longer be charged for clean water. The toxic factories that have ravaged our land will be abolished. Slavery will cease to exist in Wano from this day forward. Upon hearing these words, Tama's eyes slowly well up as she cannot help but recall her past. Her parents had died in the factories due to overwork. Young Tama held back sadness, telling her parents at their graves, "Daddy, Mommy, please rest easy. I'm gonna be okay." Afterward, Tama began her life of selling hats with Kamakyo.
悪いね、金なくて。
お待ちよ、ごめんでやす。傘、売れなかったでやすね。傘はいりませんか？
傘を一つもらおうか。
Fortunately, Tama encountered Hitetsu, and from that day, she became Hitetsu's disciple. Hitetsu also told Tama that the samurai of the future Kazuki family would save Wano. Upon hearing this, Tama's hope for the future was reignited.
それまで辛抱するでやす。大丈夫でやす。
お前が腹いっぱい飯食える国にしてやる。
Now, Tama's long-awaited miracle has finally come true, and Luffy has fulfilled his promise. At this moment, that figure continues to speak. He made an alliance with the great pirates, warriors of the Mink tribe and ninjas. They have defeated Kaido, putting an end to Orochi's tyranny. As a result, the dark clouds over Wano have dissipated. Upon hearing this news, everyone wears expressions of disbelief, their eyes filled with tears of excitement. At this point, the speaker seems a bit nervous and trembling. He suddenly looks at Kinemon and recalls Luffy's encouragement. Finally, he no longer hesitates and boldly declares to everyone.
20年の時を超え、皆を救いにやってきた光月桃之助が和の国を統治いたす。
And so, Momonosuke officially becomes the shogun of Wano, and the Kazuki family is finally restored to its rightful place. Cheers erupt from the crowd. From this point on, there will be no more oppression in Wano, and a new dawn awaits.
夜桜見上げた弱い8つのいい男、腕っぷしなら血とご愛嬌。光月桃之助はかくしてここに誕生した。
Currently, many events have unfolded within and outside of Wano. First, the Gorosei have learned of Kaido and Big Mom's defeat. They are concerned that the Yonko's changes may lead to even greater turmoil. Secondly, Zo has disappeared in the waters near Wano. This means that Wano will not open, remaining an impenetrable fortress, and the world government's fleet cannot invade Wano. Third, the surviving Cp0 agents have escaped from Wano without capturing Robin. Fourth, on Onigashima, Drake and Hawkins, both heavily injured, are having a conversation. Drake asks Hawkins if his initial fortune-telling didn't suggest that as long as Hawkins didn't betray Kaido, he would be safe. Hawkins explains that he had witnessed Kaido's might and chose to submit to him, whereas Kid decided to fight to the end. Even though Hawkins later foresaw Luffy's victory, he couldn't bring himself to go back to Kid for mercy. Drake falls silent, remembering that Hawkins had once foreseen the probability of someone surviving until tomorrow, with odds of only 1%. At that time, Hawkins had commented on how unfortunate that person was. Now, Drake asks who that person was.
占ってたある男ってのは俺だ。
A week passes in the blink of an eye, and the atmosphere in Wano is still filled with the afterglow of victory. The decorations from the Fire Festival remain in place, awaiting the next celebration. Meanwhile, in the schoolhouse, there is a new teacher, and the textbooks have been revised to include the history of Wano. The teacher begins to recount the heroic tales of Wano, stories that feature the Kazuki family, the Red Scabbards, the courageous Joy Boy who defeated Kaido, and swordsmen like the Sword God. However, amidst the joy of triumph, there is also the sorrow of losing comrades. In Ringo, 2 new tombstones grace the graveyard, one for Aizu and the other for Ashura Doji. Kinemon is in the process of constructing a shrine to honor Oden, Yasuie, and all the heroes who have given their lives for Wano. On another note, Hiyori gently broke the news to Momonosuke. Luffy and Zoro have finally awakened. Their first requests upon opening their eyes are 4 meat and booze. Following this, everyone gathers together. Momonosuke has been eagerly waiting for Luffy's awakening. He announces a nationwide grand celebration to be held later that evening. At this moment, everyone is taken aback by Momonosuke's adult appearance. He still thinks of himself as an 8-year-old and immediately clings to Nami's chest. Certainly, Nami responds to Momonosuke with an iron fist. Everyone feels exceptionally joyous about Momonosuke's situation. Subsequently, they suggest taking a bath before the celebration. Suddenly, Zoro remembers something. Sanji had once made a request. He asked Zoro that if he were to become abnormal, Zoro should kill him. Immediately, Zoro contemplates following through with this request. He even states that he had returned from hell just for killing Sanji. Then, everyone starts taking baths, with separate facilities for men and women. In the men's bath, Yamato introduces herself as Oden and candidly joins the group. On the other side, in the women's bath, Kikunajo also bathes as a woman. He mentions that in the past, he used to feel embarrassed bathing with men. Their attention shifts to Bakura port, where the pirates are having a great time. However, Kid asks his crew not to get too close to other pirate crews. At that moment, Apua and Inbi arrive before the pirates with the latest newspaper. Apu says that the newspaper presents a fresh list of their bounties and reveals a new Yonko roster in the newspaper. Meanwhile, someone is flying over Wano skies and talking to Fleet Admiral Akainu on the Den Den Mushi. Surprisingly, this man turns out to be Admiral Ryokugyu. Meanwhile, the Gorosei suddenly exclaim. They are surprised by the photo in the newspapers and wonder why the letter D hasn't been removed. It turns out that Morgans published the latest edition of the newspaper, and he not only disregarded the Gorosei's request to omit the D, but he also refused to recall the newspapers and alter the content. Morgans is extremely excited and believes that the world is on the brink of big changes. He insists that the world government cannot conceal the truth. Morgans is passionate about changing the world and can't help but express how delightful the live broadcast from Wano is. At the same time, news of Kaido and Big Mom's defeat spreads worldwide, leaving everyone shocked. In Bakura port, Apu presents the latest newspaper, which reveals the updated bounties for Luffy, Kid, and Law. It is astonishing that the bounties for Luffy, Kid, and Law have all reached 3 billion. At this moment, the pirates are excited about the new bounties, except for Kid, who, for some reason, turns pale and immediately rushes to Flower Capital to settle a score with Luffy. Law expresses his concern, saying that things have just gotten a lot more complicated. On the other side, Momonosuke has prepared exquisite cuisine for everyone. However, only Jinbe is dining, as Luffy and the others are eagerly anticipating tonight's celebration. They arrive on the streets 2 hours early, celebrating with the citizens. Luffy, Chopper, Yamato enjoy their food merrily, while Brook performs musical delights for the people. Others are also enjoying themselves, spreading the festive ambience all around. At this moment, Robin ventures into the underground of Flower Capital Castle, where she finds Oden's father, Sukiyaki's room. There is a poneglyph in this room. Here, Robin meets Tama's master, Hitetsu, who turns out to be none other than Oden's father, Sukiyaki. Sukiyaki reveals that he had been imprisoned by Orochi here, and after a near-fatal escape, Wano had fallen under complete subjugation. Sukiyaki carried a heavy burden of guilt for allowing Orochi to take control of Wano. Now, based on the poneglyphs from Alabasta, Robin has discovered that the ancient weapon Pluto is located in Wano. Upon hearing this, Sukiyaki confirms that Pluto is indeed here. In Udon prisoner mine, where Admiral Ryokugyu surprisingly makes an entrance. He faces off against imprisoned pirates like Queen and King, launching his attack. Ryokugyu is so strong. He possesses the Woods fruit ability, which allows his body to transform into vegetation. He defeats all the pirates. Ryokugyu's plant-based body can even absorb moisture, leaving Queen, King, and others completely dehydrated. At this point, Ryokugyu uses a Den Den Mushi to contact someone, urgently requesting a warship for support. He deeply admires Akainu's unwavering spirit and longs for Akainu's praise. Ryokugyu's ultimate goal is to take the head of Monkey D. Luffy. The evening arrives, and the Flower Capital begins hosting a celebration banquet. Luffy stands at the highest point in the square, and people joyfully call out to him, asking for a toast, addressing him as the banquet captain. In reality, no one knows who Luffy is now because he has asked Momonosuke not to reveal what he has done. Luffy says he doesn't want to be seen as a hero. Suddenly, Kid appears at Luffy's feet. He charges toward Luffy, shouting that he will crush him. However, Luffy seizes Kid and announces the start of the banquet. Finally, after an extended and intense battle, Luffy is rewarded with an unprecedented celebration banquet. At this moment, everyone is exceptionally happy, but Kid is the exception. He pushes away Luffy's hand and threatens to take him down because the latest newspaper has revealed the new Yonko list.
赤髪のシャンクス、黒ひげティーチ、占領道家のバギー、麦わらのルフィ。
四皇だ!
To everyone's surprise, Luffy has become one of the 4 emperors, standing alongside Shanks and Blackbeard. Another new Yonko is the world's strongest clown king, Captain Buggy. On the other side, Ryokugyu has already arrived on the outskirts of the flower capital. He hears the cheers of the festival and immediately prepares for a battle.
外の世界はめちゃくちゃだぞ。首取ってやっから、せいぜい待ってろよ。
On the other side, near the waters of Wano, the Red Hair Pirates make an unexpected appearance. The last time Shanks came to Wano was to return Oden to his homeland. Shanks expresses his longing for Momonosuke and Hiyori. In Flower Capital, the Red Scabbard sense Ryokugyu's hostility, and in an effort not to spoil Luffy and the others' enjoyment of the banquet, they decide to confront Ryokugyu on their own. Consequently, the Red Scabbards appear before Ryokugyu on the outskirts of Flower Capital. They immediately broke out into a battle with Ryokugyu. To their surprise, Ryokugyu easily suppressed Red Scabbards. Ryokugyu exhibits strong nationalistic bias. He believes that celestial dragons are the gods of this world and deems that non-affiliated nations within the world government do not deserve human rights. With these words, Ryokugyu employs his devil fruit powers and engages in battle with the Red Scabbards. In an instant, Ryokugyu activates his power, the Groves of Wrath. His body transforms into a forest, resembling the embodiment of nature itself. Ryokugyu, with his plant-like form, attacks the Red Scabbards. Just then, Yamato arrives to provide support. At this moment, the members of the Red Hair Pirates are eager to meet Luffy. Shanks holds a latest newspaper in his hands and, upon seeing Luffy becoming Yonko, he can't help but reminisce about the past. Shanks recalls how he had once attacked a world government ship, defeating CP9 agents like Who's Who and acquiring the Gomu Gomu no Mi. Later, in Windmill Village, he had a fateful encounter with Luffy. Returning to the present, Shanks, despite his lost right arm, is all smiles. Some members of the Red Hair Pirates discuss Luffy, describing him as a tremendously powerful and ruthless monkey-like creature. Not long ago, their territory was attacked, and the attackers replaced Shanks' flag with Luffy's flag. The attacker was Bartolomeo. At this point, Shanks states that he has no intention of meeting Luffy. Meanwhile, in the New World Marine headquarters, Akainu is facing a headache. It turns out that the newspapers have reported Sabo's assassination of King Cobra. During the Leveille, Sabo led the Revolutionary Army in an attack on the Holy Land. They not only disrupted the Divine Dragon Claw's declaration of war against the Celestial Dragons but also rescued Kuma from Admirals Fujitora and Ryokugyu. Additionally, Princess Vivi mysteriously disappeared amidst the chaos, and Director of Marine Criminal Investigative Service, Kuruma, is investigating these cases. Furthermore, there are internal disruptions among the Celestial Dragons, including an attempted murder by Celestial Dragon Charlos and the release of prisoners by Celestial Dragon Jaskard. These matters will be handled by the Holy Land's God's Knights. Akainu remarks, "Let the God's Knights handle it." Currently, the entire world is in turmoil, with 8 nations launching revolutions to overthrow their kings. Many believe that Sabo has a hand in these events, and he has gained the title of Flame Emperor and become a hero of the world. Sabo is now even more prominent than the leader of the Revolutionary Army, Dragon. To add to this, Sabo's little brother, Luffy, has recently risen to the Yonko. The seas are on the brink of a transformative new era. Meanwhile, Ryokugyu faces Yamato and Red Scabbards. Momonosuke also makes an appearance in his dragon form, unleashing Blast Breath against Ryokugyu. To everyone's surprise, Momonosuke is unable to use Blast Breath, resorting to close-quarters combat to bite Ryokugyu. At this moment, Ryokugyu has no idea about the identity of the pink dragon before him. He activates his devil fruit powers to bind and restrain Momonosuke. However, Momonosuke requests that Yamato refrains from intervening because he wishes to rely on the power of the samurai and himself to protect Wano. On the other side, Akainu feels the turmoil of the world. He is determined to make sure that no one gets away with their actions. At the same time, Shanks comes to Beckman's side. He tells Beckman that it's time to retrieve One Piece.
そろそろ取りに行こうか。One Piece.
One Piece episode 1082 has been released with the title, The Coming of the New Era. The Red-Haired's Imperial Rage. Continuing from the previous episode, a celebration banquet is happening in Flower Capital. However, Ryokugyu arrives in Wano and engages in a fierce battle with the Red Scabbards and Momonosuke. In just one encounter, Momonosuke is easily defeated by Ryokugyu. Witnessing this, the Red Scabbards launch a collective attack to rescue their leader.
Yonko, マキマキの術カトン燃えて灰になれ
なんつってんな分かりきった弱点ぶら下げてよ
Surprisingly, the Red Scabbards are no match for Ryokugyu at all. Everyone is entangled by Ryokugyu's plants, which are absorbing the moisture from the Red Scabbards' bodies. On the other side, in the secret room beneath Flower Capital Castle, Law arrives and encounters Robin. The three descend down an ancient staircase for a considerable distance. Sukiyaki mentions that even Kaido and the Great Snake aren't aware of this road. However, because Jack is a fishman, the Beast's pirates manage to find the road poneglyph. Hearing this, Robin and Law are perplexed about the connection to the fishmen. Finally, they reach the deep underground, where they unexpectedly see the underwater Wano. It turns out this is the ancient Wano from 800 years ago. In the past, Wano was situated at the foot of Mount Fuji. At some point, a wall was erected outside Wano, causing the accumulation of rainwater inside the wall and submerging the country. People had to establish a new Wano on Mount Fuji, and it has continued until now. Next, Robin finds the road poneglyph. Going further down from this point leads to the sleeping place of Pluto. To awaken Pluto, the surrounding walls protecting Wano must be eliminated, opening the country. In other words, to unleash the ancient weapon, Wano must lose its defense. Sukiyaki expresses his confusion about why Oden insisted on opening the country. Perhaps it's related to something Oden witnessed overseas. Regardless, Robin now knows the locations of Poseidon and Pluto. She has obtained road poneglyphs from Zou, Totoland, and Wano. With just one more piece, Luffy can find Laugh Tale. Meanwhile, on the outskirts of Flower Capital, Ryokugyu defeats all the Red Scabbards. Even Yamato is no match, entangled and bound by Ryokugyu's plant tendrils. In a critical moment, Momonosuke finally erupts, unleashing a blast breath comparable to Kaido's, blasting through Ryokugyu's body. Finally, supported by the belief in protecting Wano, Momonosuke unleashes the Blast Breath, saving all the Red Scabbards. Momonosuke uses Blast Breath once again to give Ryokugyu a shower. Unfortunately, Ryokugyu avoids this move. Ryokugyu's true form emerges from a newly grown plant. Not only does he evade the heat attack, but he also intends to skewer Momonosuke like a kebab. In the nick of time, a terrifying Conqueror's Haki echoes from a distance. Unexpectedly, Shanks actually uses Conqueror's Haki from an extremely long distance to intimidate Ryokugyu. Shanks states that Ryokugyu attempting to ambush pirates just after a major battle is despicable. Therefore, Shanks demands Ryokugyu to leave promptly.
そんなに怖いか新時代
In the end, Ryokugyu has to abandon the pursuit of Luffy and leave Wano. With this, the crisis of the Admiral is averted, and Flower Capital's celebration continues. In fact, Luffy, Zoro, Sanji, Jinbe all notice Ryokugyu's arrival. They intentionally refrain from taking action to test Momonosuke. Sanji remarks that it's not their turn to step in, while Zoro praises Momo's competence. Jinbe also admires Shanks, saying the Conqueror's Haki was incredible. Finally, as Shanks' pirate crew gradually sails away, Luffy expresses a sense of longing. The 1083rd episode of the One Piece anime has been released with the title, The World That Moves On. A new organization, Cross Guild. Continuing from the last episode, red-haired Shanks arrives in Wano and forces Ryokugyu to retreat. The Flower Capital celebration banquet proceeds smoothly. The next day marks a fresh start for Wano. People are busy nursing the wounded, with Reizo and Shinobu being the most severely injured, drained by Ryokugyu. This battle makes everyone realize that Wano is still weak and lacks the strength to defend against external threats. Kinemon apologizes to everyone, having just returned from Okabor town and missed the previous night's fight. Soon, Tsurujo is expected to arrive in the Flower Capital to live with Kinemon. Later, Inuarashi and Nekomamushi tell Carrot. They plan to stay in Wano and decide to pass on the position of the Mink tribe's leader to Carrot. Carrot inherits Pedro's will and, having ventured into the seas with Luffy, is considered the most suitable person. Although Carrot may not be the tribe's strongest warrior, she has the support of everyone and becomes the new leader. Meanwhile, Sukiyaki and Momonosuke recognize each other as grandfather and grandson. Sukiyaki decides to live in obscurity as a commoner in the future. Surprisingly, Kawamatsu, Denjiro, and others had long suspected that Hitetsu was Sukiyaki but chose not to reveal the truth. Kinemon is shocked by this revelation. Simultaneously, Robin informs Luffy about the ancient weapon Pluto. She asks Luffy if he wants it, but Luffy refuses without hesitation. Suddenly, two mature beauties appear. Shinobu transforms into a beauty due to reduced body fat from her injuries. Tama begins learning ninja techniques under Shinobu's guidance. Unbeknownst to them, Caribou lurks in the room's corner, eavesdropping on information about Pluto. Caribou intends to share details about the Poseidon and Pluto with that man, who is an undisclosed person. In the passing days, Momonosuke, engrossed in Wano's affairs. Today he notices the absence of Luffy and others. Momonosuke learns from Hiyori and Toko that Luffy had departed that morning. Only Momonosuke and Kinemon remained unaware of Luffy's departure. At this moment, Luffy, Kid, and Law have gathered at Magura Port. They are currently engaged in a heated discussion about the direction to leave Wano. In the end, Kid won a draw and decided to depart towards the east. During their conversation, Kid expressed particular dissatisfaction with another Yonko, the flamboyant clown Captain Buggy. Surprisingly, Buggy has established the Cross Guild organization. In promotional posters, both Mihawk and Crocodile are depicted as members of Buggy's crew. It is with the Cross Guild that Buggy ascended to the status of a new Yonko. The Cross Guild even issued a bounty on the Marines. It appears that the world outside has undergone significant changes during this period. Kid is especially excited about this development. He suggests that once they leave Wano, everyone should engage in combat with each other. Subsequently, Law provides Kid with a copy of the Road Poneglyph, emphasizing the need to share this information as per their alliance agreement. At this point, Kid brings up a figure related to One Piece, known as the Man Marked by Flames. It seems that this individual holds key clues about One Piece. Meanwhile, Momonosuke and Kinemon are in search of Yamato. Yamato sits on the rooftop of Flower Capital Castle, determined to find Luffy immediately. In the previous episode, we see Luffy and the crew preparing to leave Wano. However, on the day before their departure, they bid a final farewell to their friends in Wano. The people of Wano are now living prosperous lives, free from hunger, and enjoying full meals every day. At Kuri's Oden Castle, all the Red Scabbards, except for Kinemon, gathered to see off Luffy. They express their determination to support Momonosuke and reminisce about their fallen comrades, Ashura Doji and Izo. Gratitude is extended to Luffy for being the key to Wano's salvation. Following this, Carrot leads the Mink tribe to bid farewell to Luffy. Carrot shares memories of their adventures together, recalling the joyous times in Tato Land. Meanwhile, Chopper imparts his medical skills to the attractive nurse and the goat doctor. On another front, Zoro visits the graves of Yasuie and Pedro. In tribute, Zoro pours a drink for both of them. Toko and Hiyori join him, with Toko expressing her daily visits to her father's grave to keep him company. Hiyori, aware of Zoro's imminent departure, conveys her sense of loneliness. Unexpectedly, Zoro shows a straightforward side when faced with Hiyori, with whom he had once shared sleeping quarters. Zoro reveals Enma and expresses deep admiration for Oden's strength. Despite his inability to unleash Enma's full potential so far, Zoro resolves to become even stronger himself. In this manner, Zoro and Hiyori complete a poignant farewell. Meanwhile, Frankie bids farewell to his former ship captain from their working days, and Usopp also parts ways with friends from Flower Capital. On Sanji's end, he sets up his noodle stand for the final time, and the geisha Some comes to bid him farewell. Some has a small mouse named Chuji on her chest, prompting Sanji to immediately reach out and affectionately stroke the tiny creature. In reality, Some harbors positive feelings toward Sanji. She expresses gratitude to him and hopes Sanji will return to Wano. However, just as Some is about to confess her feelings, Robin suddenly appears.
Sangoro-san, 私。お蕎麦屋さん？来てくれたんだね。
Poor Sanji, missing out on a lady's confession in this way. Later, Luffy arrives at Okabor town, where he shares a meal of ashiruko made by Tsuru with Tama. Tama eats earnestly, but the departure of Luffy and the others leaves her feeling sad. At this moment, Luffy speaks seriously to Tama.
お前が大切なご飯をご馳走してくれたこと、俺は絶対に忘れねえ。
Ultimately, Luffy's words help Tama let go of her sorrow. Tama pledges to become stronger, aiming to embark on adventures alongside Luffy in the future. Luffy then stands up. Watching Luffy's receding figure, Tama can't help but shout to him. The next day, all the pirates gather at Magura port. Chopper gifts Beppo a bag of rumble balls. The conversation then shifts towards Momonosuke and Kinemon. Although they don't bid a formal farewell to Momonosuke and Kinemon, deep down, everyone feels a sense of reluctance. Throughout the journey, they share numerous experiences. Despite this, Luffy exudes confidence, assuring others by saying,
大丈夫だ。あいつは来る。
At this moment, in the square of Flower Capital, the storyteller recounts the battle against Kaido. On the evening of the Fire Festival, samurais gather at the port, ready to set forth to Onigashima, embracing the inevitability of death. On another front, Momonosuke finds Yamato. Immediately transforming into a massive dragon, he, along with Yamato and Kinemon, rushes to the port. On the way, Yamato reveals her pact with Luffy. She intends to undergo training in Wano, similar to Oden, so she won't be joining the crew for now but staying in Wano. This revelation angers Momonosuke, who feels abandoned by Luffy. He expresses his displeasure, recalling their shared experiences. In truth, throughout this journey, they've collectively faced numerous challenges. Initially, Momonosuke was a crybaby and a timid soul. Thanks to Luffy's encouragement, he gradually became brave. Over time, Momonosuke faced Kaido and developed the ability to unleash blast breath against Ryokugyu, becoming a capable general of Wano. Now, both Momonosuke and Kinemon are furious about Luffy's abrupt departure, viewing it as an insult. They scold Luffy for his impoliteness and rush to the port. Soon, Momonosuke arrives at the port. By now, Luffy and the crew are on the ship, ready to set sail. Upon seeing Momonosuke, everyone warmly greets him. Unexpectedly, Momonosuke, along with two others, dashes towards Luffy. With an angry expression, he grabs Luffy, his eyes seemingly filled with murderous intent. Unexpectedly, Momonosuke, who is initially angry, turns to tears. He pleads with Luffy and the others to stay in Wano, urging them not to leave. After all, Momonosuke is just an 8-year-old child who has yet to experience genuine farewells. At this moment, Luffy takes out a pirate flag and presents it to Momonosuke. Luffy conveys that, despite Momonosuke's noble status, in his eyes, he will always be a clumsy and timid little brother. Thus, Luffy gifts Momonosuke the flag, signifying that as long as it flies, Wano is a companion to Luffy. Any audacity here would be a direct challenge to a Yonko. In the end, Luffy bids farewell to Kinemon, Yamato, and Momonosuke one by one. He then sets sail again aboard the Sunny. Watching Luffy's departing figure, Momonosuke makes a promise, someday, I will surpass Kazuki Oden. Afterward, Luffy, Kid, and Law prepare to return to the sea from Wano. Nami mentions a proper port in the Hakamai region where they can safely disembark the ship. Kid, standing nearby, taunts, claiming that ships using regular ports are inferior. Hearing this, Luffy and Law, burning with anger, no longer care about safety to prove a point against Kid. Luffy orders Jinbe to let him take the helm, and the 3 pirate ships plunge straight down the waterfall, leaving everyone in shock. And so, Luffy, Kid, and Law leave Wano together. These 3 individuals become legendary heroes, forever remembered in the history of Wano. They are hailed as the incarnations of kings, sweeping their enemies away like a violent storm. Both Kaido, the Dragon King, and Big Mom, the Yonko, are defeated in battle. The triumphant roar of victory echoes throughout the land. Simultaneously, the storyteller's voice gently resonates, narrating the tale of the battle against Onigashima. After Orochi's head is severed, he continues to curse Wano with the resentment of the Kurozumi family through generations. At that moment, Hiyori shows no fear in her eyes. Confronting the blazing Orochi, she does not take a step back. Hiyori transforms the emotions suppressed in Wano for 20 years into words. This line marks the climax of the narrative, and everyone eagerly awaits this scene, collectively exclaiming, Simultaneously, the storyteller's voice gently resonates, narrating the tale of the battle against Onigashima. And now time slides ahead to the day after the festival, where felids and weapons can finally rest. A shocking truth is revealed at the port where the reversed crescent moons met. The denouement of this violent saga is a joyous reunion. The blood spilt in order to revive the clan will never be forgotten, a record of their sacrifices will always be carried by the wind. That concludes today's tale on our nation's renowned samurai and how they miraculously returned to us. With that, I think a well-earned break is in order. At this moment, Momonosuke inquires, That concludes all the animated plotlines of the Wano arc in One Piece, encompassing 207 episodes. Watching the entire 207-episode saga of Wano was truly a satisfying experience. Moving forward, we are now set to enter the final chapters of One Piece. I hope you all enjoy, subscribe, and share your support. Thank you, everyone. See you next time. Goodbye.